everybody, and welcome back to Motorcycles and Podcakes, the official podcast of Motorcycles and Pancakes. Today, I got to tell you, we have a legitimate rock star here. Heard he plays a little git fiddle on the side. Also rides an Africa Twin, as yours truly does as well. You might have seen him on the YouTubes, the Instagrams, under Explorer Adventure Moto.
You got it. Nice job.
Thanks, man.
Nice job.
We have Travis with us here today. Welcome, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great, man. Super excited to have you here on the old Podcakes today.
PODcakes. It's difficult to say.
It is. It gets a little confusing when you're trying to put Podcakes with podcast. It's
I'll
like
bet.
you're thinking ahead quite a ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of which I don't generally do.
Well, yeah.
Right.
I think
Try
this
not to do
goes
that.
for the best of us.
Right.
So sticking with the usual format of this, what we like to do is we like to dig in a little bit behind the person and use the old cliche, the getting to know the person behind the helmet.
Okay.
Right? So we like to kind of dig in before all the cool motorcycle stuff. And we just like to go way back in time when little Travis popped out. You know, where were you born? You know, tell us a little bit about the early days.
I was a West Side kid, actually.
Yeah.
On the in Beaverton, Aloha, when I was a little kid.
So here in Oregon.
Yeah. Yeah. Born and raised Oregon.
Okay.
And moved around a lot. Parents got divorced when I was about 11. They split up when I was about 11. Brother and I stayed with my dad on the West Side. Moved around a bunch of different schools. And then just when I was getting ready to get into high school, we moved in with my mom on the East Side. And I went to Clackamas High School,
You went to Clackamas.
which is where I graduated from.
In what year?
90. Oh man. Yep.
Clackamas in 90.
Mhm.
That's the year I went to be a freshman. How funny is that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
There you go.
So you went over there. So were you playing in any sports at the time?
When I was a little kid, I played a lot of soccer. Played soccer for 7 years. Indoor and outdoor soccer.
Nice.
Played soccer for a little bit of my freshman year, and then just got out of it. I did a lot of martial arts while I was growing up.
No kidding.
Yeah, taekwondo and jiu-jitsu, stuff like that. Yeah.
Jeebus.
Mm.
Very nice.
Yeah, I did that for a long time, actually.
Yeah. And you don't do any more?
No. Does it look like I do?
Hey, I just thought I'd
I mean,
ask.
yes.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So out of high school, what did you end up doing there? Just start working? Did you go to college?
Started working. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I worked for a bunch of different car lots. You remember when the Scott Thomason dealerships were
Oh, yeah.
around? I worked for the corporation all up and down McLaughlin for a while. I worked for the Lamphere Corporation out on the west side. When Town and Country was around, I worked for them. I did that for a long time. Not sales or anything, usually like maintenance and inventory, stuff like that. And running maintenance crews, things, PDI sometimes, yeah,
Right.
stuff like that.
Fun fact.
Hmm.
I actually worked at the Thomason dealership.
Nice.
Thomas and Ford.
Nice.
And I was the Tech 101.
Nice.
Like, very short amount of time. But the Tech 101, and for those of you that don't know, it would be like I'd get there in the morning, and I would drive a van all day. And so people would come in and get the car worked on, their oil changes or whatever. We'd have the car for the day. I would drive them to work, I'd drop them off, and I'd come back, and then they would call, and then I'd go pick them back up. And I did that, I don't know, not very long.
Yeah.
They didn't like it because I'm a total metalhead. And so I would be like driving with people, listening to like Slayer or the band Death or something, just roar, 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 roar. I'm just cruising around like, yeah, this is what I listen to.
Yeah.
Got a lot of looks.
Oh, I
Actually
bet.
got a lot of complaints.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure you
know,
did.
That's kind of funny. So I'm sure at some point we were crossing paths. And we just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. At some point, we probably did.
Yeah. In high school, I had a very quick summer job at, the Chevy dealership down there, or whatever it was. I can't remember who owned it at the time. But,
On McLaughlin?
yeah.
Wasn't that Town and Country?
It was
Probably.
before Town and Country took it over.
Oh,
It
okay.
was like, I want to say Bob something, but that wasn't it. Anyways, I worked there, and I washed cars.
Nice.
It was close to home. I'd walk up there. This is before I drove.
Yeah. When I worked for Lamphere, I was a detailer in PDI Tech is what I did for Lamphere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, we definitely crossed paths before.
Yeah.
100%. So moving on from there, was that about time maybe some motorcycling started spiking the interest, or was that?
I've been in motorcycles ever since I was probably 12, maybe.
Boy, we
So
skipped
it's
right over that.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
It's never really any racing. I mean, we do like hare scrambles, poker runs, things like that, but never really any races. My family would go do race, like my stepbrother and my stepdad. They would go do races. They've raced like the old Mint 400. They've more trucks and buggies than bikes, but did Baja 1 year. Yeah, all up and down the West Coast. Yeah.
Baja, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty legit.
Yeah.
How old were you then?
I was a kid. It was early teens, mid-teens, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
It was cool. Yeah. When the 1 year that my brother and I actually got to go with them, they were doing communications. My mom and my stepdad are ham radio operators.
Very cool.
Have been forever. And they would run communications and things for the race. They would help, the different checkpoints and whatnot.
Yeah.
So a lot of the events we went to, that's what they were doing. And my stepbrother was typically the racer, and they would help with communications or sweeping, stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the ham radio stuff is a lot of fun, and I know the different clubs and stuff because I'm a ham operator as well. KI7LQJ. I know they do a lot of events where they set up. Like we have Hood to Coast here, and there's a whole club that just gets together and just does all the emergency communications for that.
Right.
It's kind of a cool event, kind of a cool volunteer deal.
Yep.
So from Baja, being a kid, and it was your stepbrother doing the racing.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part,
Mm-hmm.
what was he racing on?
It was a truck that we built.
Yeah.
It was built it from the ground up. It was a bar frame chassis and used Power Wagon panels, but it had a built 440 in it. It was a quick truck.
It was legit.
Yeah, that was typically what we would race when we went to races. Was that?
Oh man! So is that not considered the tough trucks then? Maybe something else.
That would have been back before the classifications. It was back before trophy trucks were even really a thing.
Right.
Yeah, they were just starting to come out.
Yeah. For those of you listening, we're old.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, we're very old. Yeah.
That's cool. So then, about 12, you started riding.
Yeah, stepdad taught me how to ride. Taught me and my brother how to ride out in the Tillamook Forest, all around Lee's Camp, Brown's Camp, Rogers Camp, Jones Creek, Jordan Creek, all that stuff.
All that stuff out there.
Yeah, and that's back when you can still ride all the way from Brown's Camp to like the Flying M Ranch and Yamhill without hitting any gates, and you weren't on pavement at all.
Yeah.
We'd ride over there and have breakfast and then ride back type thing.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and built and maintained a lot of the trails that are out there, and some of the trails that I helped build and maintain are still there and still being used.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I know growing up too, we were riding a lot, but we would generally go kind of out towards like Timothy Lake area in there. Do you remember off I-84 just outside of Trout there was Lewis and Clark?
Yep.
That
yeah, we
riding
went
place
there.
over there.
We went there a couple times.
Yeah, it seems like that's like we went there every weekend. It feels like.
Yeah. Well, it was
just
close, right?
Yeah.
It was easy to get to.
Mhm.
I mean, sandy.
Yeah.
It was like sandy, loamy dirt. But if you wanted sand stuff, if you didn't want to go to Sand Lake, that's where you went because it was a lot closer.
Yeah, I remember just riding out there and just my little XR80.
I had a 1984 XR250.
Oh, there you go.
That was my main bike back then.
Okay. Yeah. So we weren't too far away, a little 4-strokes. I remember in the second grade, my mom and dad had divorced when I was 6. So in the second grade, I think I was at my mom's because I remember my mom taking me over to my dad's house. And that was my primary place. And I got there and my dad and my grandfather were out there. And I can't remember. I want to say that the bike had a cover on it or maybe it was in the garage or something. I don't remember that point. I seem to remember a reveal. Like, here's a motorcycle. And I remember like, oh my God, what is this? And learning how to ride in the front yard. It was so much fun. And then, back then you could take the top part of the carburetor off. Now, you probably still can, but you take it off and had that spring on the inside that you could adjust it for half throttle or whatever.
Yep.
So my grandfather, he was taking it off and he's like, okay, I'm in first gear with the clutch in. And he says, I'm going to take this off. And mind you, I am probably 10 minutes into my riding career. Right. And I went maybe in that 10 minutes down to the end of the yard and back. right?
Mhm.
So he takes this off, put it half throttle, but when he's getting ready to do it, he's like, all right, the throttle's going to go like wide open. So don't let the clutch out. I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
He takes that off, and I just started panicking. Like, I remember going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I let the clutch out full throttle, man. That thing popped a wheelie, threw me off the back, and went all the way down the yard before it tipped over.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, I told you not to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I did.
Yeah, when we learned the very first place I can remember, right, it was an old it was like an old Trail 90 or something like that. I think is what we actually started on. But we were out by the fish hatchery around the Trask area.
Okay.
Is where it started, right? And same type of thing. You got to be careful of clutches and all that stuff. And there's more than a few times clutches got popped. And yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
It's always adventure, right?
yep,
That's what we're always looking for. Just
yep.
let it go and freak out and just let the bike go.
Mm-hmm.
It's surprising how far they'll go on their own before they actually tip over.
Oh yeah, ghost ride. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, forever. We used to do that on our bicycles,
Mm-hmm.
just letting it go.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of people, I know that people listen to this all over the place. We are in Oregon, and I'm actually in I'll just say the Oregon City area. So a lot of what Trav and I are talking about, like the Trask River and stuff, this is a lot of local areas here for Oregon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So-
coast range stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
towards the coast, because we actually live in like the perfect area.
Yes. We can drive in any direction in an hour. We can be at the mountain, or we can be at the coast.
Yep.
We can be in the woods. We can be at a river.
Be in the desert.
Be in the desert. Yep.
Yeah, because we do have like Oregon on the southeast corner of Oregon is actually the beginning of kind of not kind of, but it's actually the beginning part of the Great Basin
Mm-hmm.
here in the United States. So it's kind of cool that we can, in a matter of a day, we can literally leave the coast, right over the Coast Range, be in the valley,
Yep.
right over the Cascade Mountains, drop to the backside. You're in kind of the arid parts of the Great Basin, and then all of a sudden you're in the desert.
Desert. Yeah. And most people, when they think Oregon, Washington, they don't think that we have desert, but we very much do.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of, I think the stereotypical is from the Cascades West.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they see all the big mountains and then the coast, but they
Big
don't realize
mountains, lots
east
of
side.
green, lots of rain, and that's. I mean,
Uh,
we have a lot more to offer than just that.
yeah. But still, we have a lot of rain.
We have a lot of it.
That's all right. So we got a few things I'm excited to talk about here, but
'Kay.
we're gonna push those out for a minute too, because
Push them out. Yeah.
we still got some.
That's what she said.
It is what she said. Still got some learning about Trav. So when did you start riding on the road?
I did a couple of times through the years, but consistently not until I got the Africa Twin. Really.
That's pretty good, because I know we went out and rode a few days ago,
Mm-hmm.
and
Almost all of my riding stuff had been dirt
right,
up until that point.
that's pretty cool. It's a different beast coming out on the road,
Mm-hmm.
because I think I have a pretty good like dirt growing up riding, off road and dirt, and then getting a little older and then transitioning to mainly road for a while, and then now combining everything in the last, I don't know, 5-6 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just combining the two, and the adventure riding. That's
Yeah.
where it's at for me.
I've never owned a sport bike. I've never owned a cruiser. My brother had a what was that called? Honda Ascot. He had one of those for a while, and I rode that, a couple of times on the road, and it was just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
I'm a dirt rider.
I remember in high school we had this buddy that worked at a gas station, and this guy at the gas station, he was kind of creepy, but he was a lot older, and he had this little Honda 250 road bike. I don't even know what it was. It was from like the 70s or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one night he was just like, "Yeah, go for a ride." And I took off all over Milwaukee and Oak Grove, and
Nice.
I was just like, "This is rad on a summer night."
Mm-hmm.
Just man, that was super cool.
Yeah.
And it's funny when the bug hits you.
Oh yeah.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
So cruising back in time a little bit. So I've heard you talk a little bit about mountain biking.
Mhm.
I've done some of that as well. And so how did the transition? Were you mountain biking first, or mountain biking probably came in later?
Mountain biking itself was much later.
Yeah.
For a while there, when we were growing up and doing motorcycles, we also raced BMX
Okay.
bikes. When Riverside Park used to have the old BMX track,
Right. Yeah.
we'd race there a lot. and I really liked it. It helped take up. It helped get some of this out of my motorcycle riding because I was getting that competition buzz
Right.
by doing BMX with a much lower threshold of possible, catastrophe.
Right. Right. So when Travis said he's doing this, he like mimicked
Throttle.
wide open. So
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was like 80s. That was a long time ago.
Right.
But I started doing mountain biking stuff in the early 2000s,
Okay.
probably
Sure.
cross country stuff, and then I got into downhill racing and free ride.
Downhill is crazy.
It is. Yep. Yeah.
So was that just an interest and you're like, hey, I want to
Very much.
try racing now.
Yeah, and that was there was a time frame where I didn't touch a motorcycle for like 15, 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, not even dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I started noticing the downhill mountain bikes, like that thing is just like a motorcycle without the motor. Let's try that. And I had a blast. It was so fun. You get all the buzz, you get all the thrill. You can hear the wind. You don't have the motor sound or anything like that. But particularly with free ride or racing, that was awesome.
So what's the difference between, like, I think everybody understands downhill racing. Like, we get it. What's the difference between downhill racing and the free ride?
Free ride is like you're at a park, a built park, and you're riding on what's called like skinnies. They'll take logs and things and shave off the top, and you ride across them. You're generally a couple feet off the ground when you do that, but then you'll go through some swoopy corners, and then you'll go over a huge jump that gaps across a road and stuff like that, like big air, big jumps.
Oh,
things
no
like
kidding.
That. Yep.
Dude, that's cool.
And it's all gravity based. Free cross country is the up and downhill and stuff like that.
Right.
Free ride is downhill racing, but you're not racing a clock. You're just riding. You're just going out to have fun.
That sounds pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I got into mountain biking myself for a little while, and I tried racing. I've been in and out of like cycling racing almost my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I have a cousin that raced professionally for a long time, and so he was older, so I kind of was like, oh my gosh, this guy's awesome.
Yeah.
Right? So I kind of wanted to do that. And I remember we had a criterium out of my dad's work. So a crit race is a set course with a maximum, I think the maximum number I believe is 8 turns.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have the set course and you go around it. So say it's a race for 30 minutes plus 4 laps. So that's how they kind of keep track of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember as a kid, I was out there racing the juniors and I was just like killing everybody. And then I threw my chain and lost.
Yeah.
Right. And I was just crushed.
Mm-hmm.
Then I tried it, on and off again for a long time. My youngest son, Braden, really got into it for a long time. So I tried to do races again. And I remember this one race, we were out at Tigard. And we're racing a criterium, right? And I'm racing like the old guys like me. And I'm like, okay, here we are. And then some of the junior riders were also riding in the men's race.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just riding and we're like 4 laps in, 5 laps in. And I'm like, wow. I'm fit. I'm really feeling good. I'm keeping up with these guys. I'm like mid-pack. I'm like, as long as I stay here, I'm going to feel good about this, right?
Right.
And so they do preem laps, and we go across, and they like ring the bell. Winner of the next lap gets a free case of beer by Deschutes. And I was like, why am I by myself all of a sudden?
Right.
Where's everybody at? I couldn't catch up after that. I just got dropped.
Yeah, they all turned on the juice.
Oh my gosh, totally. And I tried a couple mountain bike races up at Ski Bowl, up on Mount Hood. And
yeah, I raced there a lot actually up at Ski Bowl.
Yeah, I know they did a lot of downhill events there.
Yeah, they do. They had they don't anymore. They shut it down I think last year, and they're not doing it this year either.
Really?
Well, somebody got hurt, and the lawyers got involved. So
that whole thing, that's so dumb. That downhill stuff, man. I watch it on TV, and I'm just like, Jeebus, you guys are nuts. Love it.
Yep.
I did know an old family friend, Jason Siegfried, who did that for a while. Remember, he did some race that was on TV or something. And I was just like, all right.
Yeah.
He did a downhill section, and there was we were riding on the other day on 4220, just the big rocks.
Yep.
And he was just flying over those.
Yep.
I was like, bro, what?
Yep. Yeah, you find the biggest rock at the front of the section, and you kind of pump into it a little bit so you can float over the rest of them and get through it fast. That's how you do that.
Oh, no kidding. I would see, the way that I like to ride mountain bikes, I would have that philosophy. I'm going to go do this. And I would hit it. And next thing I know, I'd be flying over the handlebars, wondering where the bike is.
Yeah.
That I had a pair of rock shocks on my mountain bike the shocks were actually blown.
Yeah.
So I took the bike and was with a bunch of friends. We went to Timothy Lake, and I stopped and was kind of waiting for him. And they're like, "Hey, okay, we're here." So we're just talking. I go to leave, and so my left leg is up, and I go to press down on the pedal, and somehow I hit like just a root that was already just right there, anyways, where I stopped.
Mm-hmm.
It caught my front wheel, compressed the front forks down because they were all screwed up, and I literally just stood up and flipped over, landed on my back. That happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still get crap for that.
Yeah.
It's okay. I accept all of that. So how long did you do that for?
Off and on until probably the early teens, I think, until my last downhill race. That was except I almost broke my neck in that. That's when I promised we weren't married at the time. We were engaged, but
yeah.
I promised my wife that I would not race anymore after that because it happened right in front of her, and it was right before about 900 yards from the finish line.
What happened?
So I came at Ski Bowl. There's a section where you're in the woods, and you come out of the woods, and you kind of snake your way down towards where the finish line is, down by the kind of close to where the bike shop's at Ski Bowl.
Okay, yeah.
Is where they do the finish line. But coming out of the woods, there's a jump that you jump off of, and then you sail down the hill, and then you just keep going. When I hit the jump right, hit all my marks fine, and when I landed, my front wheel contacted a hidden rock in the grass that nobody saw.
Oh, no.
And at about 40 miles an hour, I went over, and I couldn't get tucked in fast enough, so I was flat on my head with my feet in the air and crunched and then flipped. And I remember the smell of dust and stuff, but I don't really remember the wreck itself. I guess I was out for, a minute and a half or whatever.
Holy, no kidding.
Yeah, my brother was there. It happened right in front of my brother, my mom, and my future wife. Like right in front of them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they were all right there. And my brother came up and he got my goggles off and everything, and I got on the bike and finished the race, but I'd already lost, I was way off the pace at that point. I was probably going to podium in that race.
Oh,
So,
man. Dude, that's brutal.
Yeah, it's bruised, couple of cracked ribs. My neck has never been the same since then. Obviously concussion, right? And yeah, I was messed up.
Jesus, man.
But yeah, I promised her at that moment I will not race anymore. And since then, I haven't been on a mountain bike except for a while when we lived in Eugene. I'd use my cross country bike, and I commuted to and from work for a while when I worked in Eugene every day. But that was it. No more racing, no more free riding.
I don't know what's more dangerous, downhill riding or commuting on a bicycle.
Oh, Eugene is awesome for it because they have bike paths everywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
It is
yeah.
a great town for that.
Yeah, a little more than Portland.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I commuted for a while on my bicycle.
Yeah, I did it for 2 years.
Yeah. I got smacked by a car doing that too.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. The guy tried to tell me that I did it on purpose.
Oh.
Tried to take me to court. I was like, no.
Yeah.
No. So that's cool. So, and then once you got done and you healed from your wreck,
Mm-hmm.
how long was it before you were like, hey man, I need something with a motor?
My stepdad had passed away. He passed away, I think it's probably 9 or 10 years ago now, I think. And he still had motorcycles. And they were, I'm living, the house that I'm in is the family house. That's where they live. So his bikes were still there. I wasn't living there yet. We were in Vancouver at that point. But my brother and I went and borrowed the bikes for a day and just went for a trail ride. I think we were up out of Rogers Camp in Tillamook, and that's when the bug bit me again. And ever since that time, I've been back into motorcycles.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that bug, man, because I did the same thing once we started having kids. It was just like, I guess I can't ride. And I did a very similar thing. I actually crashed in front of her. Like, it was weird because we were pretty young at the time, and I had a crotch rocket. And we were just going to go to the store, get some stuff, and kind of come home. And then at the time, I was like, why don't you just ride with me?
Mm-hmm.
Just hop on the back. Let's go. And we weren't all the gear all the time. you know? So it was just kind of like,
Right.
you're young and invincible. I think I was 19,
Yep.
maybe 20.
You don't know any better back then.
No. And I remember that she was wearing like really short Daisy Dukes and like a tank top.
Mhm.
And that's what she would have been in. And then we went and did our thing, and we were heading back to the house, and she was 2 cars behind me or a car behind me or something like that. Anyway, something happened. Car came around. And honestly, I wasn't a very good rider. That bike did way more than my riding capability at the time.
Right.
And no ABS brakes and stuff. And someone gets in front of you, you have to hit the brakes. And next thing you know, you're rolling across McLaughlin Boulevard,
Right.
you know, which is a really weird thing because I remember hitting the ground and being like, I was working at the ice rink at Clackamas Town Center at the time.
Okay.
So I saw the figure skaters all the time, and you're just chit-chatting with everybody your age. So I remember in the air flying off my bike going, tuck like a figure skater. And I put my hands in under my armpits, and I hit the ground, and I rolled.
Yeah.
And I rolled like maybe 2 or 3 times, and I stood right up, right in oncoming traffic. I was like, oh, I should probably move.
Yeah.
Got out of the way, and I didn't undo my D-rings or anything. I just took my helmet off with the adrenaline, so I had that really cool like scar up my
Oh,
face or the whole cut up my face. But yeah, that was the same thing, kind of like your rack in front of everybody. It was
Mhm.
back there, and I remember she was all like, "Oh my god, what
Yep.
are you doing?" I was like, "Dude, I'm so glad you're not on this bike right now."
Mm-hmm.
Shit. So
Yeah, she would have been messed up.
yeah, for sure. So that was kind of what I was getting at. So once we started popping the kids out, it was just like, you're done for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did. I took a long time until the boys were probably, I don't know, maybe junior high-ish or something before I got back on and started riding again.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was purely like work-based. For 10 years, I worked as a salary manager for Lowe's, and I would switch stores a lot. So at one point, we were in Salem, and then we moved to Eugene for my job, and then we'd move up to Vancouver. So we were all over the place, and I was, 70 to 80-hour work weeks. There's
Oh,
no
Jeebus.
time for riding,
Yeah. That's a legit work week.
Yep.
Yeah. That definitely takes a lot of time away from life,
It does.
you know?
Yep.
I'm having that problem right now. Sometimes work is just a little too much, and I'm like, I don't want to be here. I want to be on my motorcycle.
Right. Right.
So when the bug finally bit you again and you started riding some more,
Mhm.
you just you kind of ease back into the dirt, or were you just like full on?
I eased into the dirt and
Yeah.
did that a little bit, and then when I was it would have been early 2020 is when I decided, let's go look at bikes, because my brother and I had always wanted an Africa Twin, even back in the day when they were
Right.
originally out. We'd always wanted them, and then when they re-released them at the end of 2015 for the 16 model year, the new one,
Right.
we're like, oh, we got to figure out how we can get these. These things are amazing machines. So I had been looking, and I went and bought one. And I told my wife, it's like, this, you don't have to get me anything for my 50th birthday. This is my midlife crisis early 50th birthday present to myself, like 2 years early, right?
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
So that's, and it's been game on ever since.
Yeah, that Africa Twin. And I kind of chuckled when he said, I'm going to go look at bikes.
Yeah.
That's how it always starts.
Yep.
That's how we ease it into everybody else when our mind is already like, we're going to buy that right now.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real. So I was kind of the same way. In fact, when I was looking to buy another bike, I was thinking about doing the old Starbucks Cruiser.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the BMW GSA. For
Yeah,
those of you
that's
that
the
don't-
adventure bike that everybody knows.
Right, right. And, you watch Long Way Down and Round and whatever. And,
Yep.
and then you're just kind of like watching some of these videos on YouTube and you're like, oh, man,
Mhm.
okay. And then I'm also like, I'm a big Rush fan too. So Neil Peart on
Yeah, oh, yeah.
tour, that's what he does, right?
Mhm.
He would jump on his GSA and
You wrote a book about it.
he wrote several books. Yeah. So my profession as a truck driver, right? I listen to a lot of Audible books.
Yep.
So I just go through that series. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So when I started looking, I was thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into the dealership, started talking to the guys, and finally it was like, okay, I'm buying one now. So this is what I want. And the guy was like, well, I got one in the back with some, kind of custom polished heads and stuff. And I'm like, show me. Takes me back there. And I'm like, yep. So I asked him, I go, okay, I'm going to take off, but email me out the door. EFT, all the taxes, out the door price.
Mhm.
I'll have it to you in an hour. It was like 2-3 hours later, but he sent me that, and I looked at that price, and I was like, there's no way in hell.
Mhm.
That is just incredible.
Yeah.
That's like a car.
Mhm.
I can't justify that myself, let alone bringing it home, right? So the Africa Twin was like very close number 2,
Mhm.
and I went back and forth for a little bit, and then finally, at the time, you couldn't find them either.
Right.
They were selling like hotcakes.
Mhm.
So I found one online out at Hillsboro or Motorsports of Hillsboro.
Okay.
My second bike I bought from them, and I went out, or I called the guy first thing Tuesday morning. I can't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday. I think they're closed on Monday, like most of them. But I ended up calling the guy first thing in the morning. He goes, "Well, yeah, I have it. It's still in the crate. We got to put it together, and it's our last one." And it was the color I wanted, the black with the wheels, the gold wheels and stuff. And I said, "Well, you don't have it anymore. Put it together. I'll be there, tomorrow to get it." And he goes, "Well, we need a couple days." I'm like, "All right, do you need money down or what?" And he's like, "Well, I mean, it would help." And I'm like, "Here you go.
Right.
We're doing this." And that's how I got the AT-AT.
Yeah.
Right. So it was.
Yeah, I got mine in 2020. Like I said, mine's a 2019 model year, so it was like a holdover. It's one of the ones that hadn't sold from the year before. I got it at the Beaverton shop. So, and I didn't tell really anybody except my wife. I mean, she knew, but I didn't even tell my brother that I was doing it. So I said, and at the time I had been riding dirty for a while, but anyway, I didn't even have my endorsement at the time. Right. And
Yeah.
back when I was riding, nobody gave a crap about endorsements, not even the cops. As long as you could show an insurance card, they didn't care, driver's license, whatever. Nowadays, you need your endorsement.
Right.
So I had to go get my endorsement. But since I didn't have it at the time, I couldn't even ride my own bike off the lot. Right. So I called my brother, and I hadn't even told him yet. I said, "Meet me out at Beaverton Motorcycles." He goes, "What did you do?" And he came out. I said, "Will you ride that home for me?" He goes, "Yeah."
Oh, you didn't even ride it home?
No, I followed him home.
I seriously thought you were going to be like, "Can you take this to the parking lot across the street?
No.
We'll slippy swap."
No.
Yeah.
No, my brother was the first one to be able to ride my bike.
That's cool for your brother.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then within 6 months, he bought his. Yeah, he got a 2019 Adventure Sport.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Twinsies.
Right.
Did you guys do any cool trips together?
Not any. We didn't get to do any long trips. We did a lot of day rides and things like that. And we had planned to do long trips before he passed away. But then he passed away really suddenly, so it's just we never got a chance to do it. But we did get a ride quite often, actually. So
special times, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And now I have both the bikes in my garage. So yeah, I'm getting ready to sell the Adventure Sport, but.
Well, you heard it here first, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you're looking for it,
I'm pretty sure I've already got a buyer for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you saying something about that.
Right.
So that's pretty good. So the Adventure Sport, the memories of riding with your brother.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's so cool because, as everybody knows, I ride a shit ton with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Pancakes.
Yep.
So it's the same thing. Like we get to the point now to where I think he's starting to really realize he's toning it back off road. So we saw that the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Says so the other day, everybody like Travis and I and Kevin and the Pops and the neighbor Dave, we all met up and we went for a cool little ride up 4220, and which is a part of the Oregon BDR. So
it's part of it's the optional, more difficult.
Right.
To be determined. They still have to adjust the maps. It's always been there.
Yeah.
And it's always been the optional, more difficult route. It's not technically the route.
Right.
It's
the
the
route.
optional go around.
I think the time when they made it, everything was still closed.
Correct.
Yeah. So they had to have the other route going around.
Correct.
But the route that we ended up riding, this optional route, is if you look in the map, it'd be from Road 46 to Olali Lake, Road 4220.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
pretty much right where the Mount Hood National Forest meets the Willamette National Forest. Because that's why that gate was closed.
Well, the gate's there, but it's actually on the south side is the Mount Jefferson Wilderness area.
That's what it is. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. So, anyways, we were getting there. Like my dad is starting to realize, like he's starting to tone it down because I don't remember where you were. You must have been behind me, maybe. Yeah, I think you were behind me because I stopped and kind of waved you by there for a minute because I lost comms with my dad. And I waited, and you went by because usually he'll hit something like just before that. We went over that little washout area where they filled it in with all those big rocks.
Right.
So we just went over it.
Mm-hmm.
But those are things where he's really starting to kind of throttle back.
And it was not nothing. I mean,
No, it wasn't.
That was a robust ride.
Yeah, 100%. So he got halfway through that and stopped, and so he's still recovering at the giant loop. He ended up at the gas station just turning around there at Crane, and something happened, and he tipped the bike over and landed on his shoulder.
It happens.
100% happens. So he's still kind of recovering from that. And then, 73, he's almost 74. He's, the recovery time's a lot longer.
Yes, it is.
So he stopped in there. I rode back. And what I ended up doing is getting on his bike, his T7, riding it through that section, going up, turning around, coming back, riding back through that section again. And then, him and I were talking, like, what are we going to do now, And from there back to the highway was
just
fine.
gravel
it was
road.
super easy.
Yeah, just gravel road.
Yeah, so he was like, you guys keep going. I'll just go back around to Olali Lake the other way.
Yeah.
The main way.
Yeah.
And I'll meet you guys at the lodge, So, yeah, we had some guys from doing the BDR stop by. And I thought it was really funny because these three guys kind of pull up, and the guy in the front's like, hey, is everything okay? And we're like, yeah, man, we're fine. Do you mind? I have some friends up in the road, and at some point they're going to stop waiting for me. Will you tell them I'm fine? My dad's turning around, and I'll be right there.
Right. And they did, too, because I had stopped and waited for you.
Right.
And they did stop and tell me that.
That's good. What I'm laughing at is the guy's like, well, you want to ride with us up there? I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. So I'm probably 20, 30 yards away from my motorcycle at this point. All right. And my dad is on the T7 or getting on the T7 and he's getting ready to take off. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. And they're like, okay. And they just took off. I was like, so much for riding with you guys.
Yeah.
But that was a good section. But that's kind of what I'm saying with him is he's starting to understand like the more technical roads he can't do anymore.
Yeah.
And I think I think that's hurting his heart.
Right.
Because that's where he loves to be.
I mean, where I'm at, I can still do them, but I'm to the point where I don't want to do them anymore, right? Because with recent events, I can't push myself that far anymore because it will physically mess me up.
We're going to get to that recent event, too.
Right.
That's part of it.
So, I mean, even I turned around that road and took the easy route because I just didn't want to deal with it.
I understand. And I actually recorded that whole road. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but I think I'll just put it kind of up as just a as-is video. Here, check it out if you're going to do the road.
As a thing. Yeah, right.
And I'll probably put that up here in a couple days. But I think that road was where you were and where you turned around was probably – it didn't get any worse than that. It was probably one of the more difficult technical sections right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it had times where – big rocks and a good steep section up, big rocks, big section down and stuff. But I was really motivated to get by Brighton Bush Lake because we spent a lot of time growing up there as a kid, just camping and hiking. And, my dad's a big mountain climber. So when we'd go to Jefferson Park and go climb Mount Jefferson, that's where we would drive to.
Nice. Your home base or whatever?
Yeah.
Right.
So I really wanted to see what the fire did up there. And luckily, it was like burned everywhere around. But the campsite, that whole area looked great. I was
There's fire up there again right now.
I know. It's actually on 4610 Eddy Road.
Yep. Abbott. Yeah, it's up around
Abbott Road.
Liddy Flats up on what they used to call Squaw Mountain.
Yeah.
Which apparently you're supposed to call it that anymore, but I mean, that's what I know it as.
That's what I know it as too.
Yeah. It's not a derogatory term. That's just what its name was.
Right. So, yeah, I saw that yesterday, and Sean, he was on the podcast. He and I were texting a bit about that, and he was like, it's on 4610. And looking at the map, I'm just making a giant assumption here. I don't know facts or anything, but when I zoomed in on the map of where the little fire started, it looks like it started on 4610 by the rock quarry. And the rock quarry is where people like to go shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, and that's what the big fire started with a couple years ago. Out there was people shooting and started the fire.
Well, and then the other one was started by the kid with the fireworks.
Yeah, the one in the gorge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy. There's a documentary on that on YouTube.
Yep.
That is crazy. I didn't realize there was that many people out hiking that got caught.
Yep.
That was insane.
Yep.
Man, yeah. So hopefully they get that under control. It was only, the last update I saw was this morning from last night, and it was at 20 acres.
Yeah.
So
I hope they can get it under control because they just started getting that whole area cleaned up to the point where we could start going back up there.
Yeah.
Just within a matter of months ago.
Right. So I'm going to assume 224 right out of Cicada is closed.
Probably.
Yep. So if you wanted to get up to 4220, for example,
not going to do it.
You got to do it from the Detroit side.
Mm-hmm.
There is another way to go up there. You can make it up out of Malala, and there's some. You go up the Malala River, and there's a series.
Scoggins.
Yeah, there's a series of.
Is that Scoggins Valley Road, Scoggins Road, something like that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know the numbers when I get up there. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, that one. But it goes to a washout, and it's a legit washout, and it's rideable. But you need to have people with you.
Yeah.
Probably like 3 or 4 people with you on big bikes.
Yeah.
If you got a little bike, you probably just wheel through it and don't even think about it.
Right.
But it's extremely steep on, would that be the, northwest side of it? Yeah, northwest side of it. It gets really steep for 20, 30 feet maybe. It's like, oof. But if you had a little bike, you could probably just go right down and not even think about it. But if you did that, it puts you right there at Bagby Hot Springs.
Yeah.
So you can come out right there and then just join 46 and turn
Right.
up. But which would be cool if anybody's looking to do a ride with me. Let's do that. That would be kind of fun, actually. But yeah, hopefully that fire gets put out. So, but yeah, getting back to my pops though, man, you ride with them on the dirt, the gravel, the rock, or whatever, and it would be you kind of ride for a little bit, got to wait. So you're kind of always staggering, right? So, and then you put that guy on the freaking road, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, can you slow down a little bit?
Oh, he was flying.
Heavy-handed on the road, just tear it up.
Right.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so Travis, at what point were you like, this motorcycle stuff is like awesome. Like I'm loving it. Where were you, if you remember, when you're like, I think I want to start sharing this on the YouTubes with people. Maybe I should start a channel.
It started with the wife wanted me to get like a dash cam or something like that, so I would have some proof if somebody ever wiped me out or whatever, that type of thing. So I got a GoPro Hero 7, and then I never used it as a dash cam. I'm like, I've got this camera, I'm just going to start filming this stuff so I can look at my rides and see if I'm improving or look at where I'm going or just to have like a memory of doing it or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was about that time that I really started watching some moto vloggers and stuff, and I'm thinking, I can do that. So I just started doing it. So the moment that happened, I was in my living room.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once you started kind of figuring out like that's what you wanted to do, were you starting to plan like, okay, I'm watching whoever and they're doing this. I can do that, but I can do it my own way. Or were you kind of planning it out, or have you just like put the camera on and went, record, here we go?
Yeah, it was, I've always been into like survivalist stuff and bushcrafting and things like that also.
Okay.
So originally, and the first couple of videos will reflect this too, is love camping, love bushcrafting, like survivalist type stuff, whatever, plus motorcycles. Let's just combine the 3, 4, whatever, and film it and see what we come up with. So that's why, like, for my first couple of videos, talk about like how to build a fire, right?
Right.
How to properly gather the wood, things like that, and that's in the first couple of videos, which were god awful, by the way.
They always are.
Yeah. And that's what the channel was originally going to be, and then it just sort of morphed into moto vlogging and moto camping.
Yeah.
And more recently, in the last couple of years, it's I've added in going to events and things like that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the genesis of the channel.
So before we get to like events and stuff, as you're like creating your own channel, I mean, there's a lot to learn. I don't know where you were, but I was kind of the same way, like, hey, I got a GoPro for her birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I found a way to
Just
put
like
it
all of us, none of
yeah.
us knew what we were doing in the start.
Right. So it was like, okay, got a mount for my helmet.
Mm-hmm.
I would literally just record and then wait for the battery to die.
Yeah. Yeah, you record everything.
Oh, yeah.
And then you buy a bunch of extra batteries so you can keep replacing batteries so you can fill the card up.
Right, right.
And now it's like, I do not want to do that because I don't want to have to review all that crap when I get back.
Well, now that we know editing, now we understand.
Yeah, right.
But it was the same thing. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
Video editing?
Yeah.
What is this kung fu you speak of?
Using all the crossfade transitions and the fade outs and the fade ins. Like, yeah, no, don't do that. Jump cuts is where it's at.
Yeah, jump cuts.
Yeah.
You could always tell somebody that's new that's doing that because it is all crossfades and the weird like stock transitions and everything.
Stock transitions. You're not using J cuts or L cuts or anything yet.
Yeah, you're just throwing everything in there. I remember.
Or you're using the really crappy YouTube studio music.
Oh.
If you put music to a montage, oh my
That's
god,
horrible. I am guilty as charged, 100%.
all of us did.
Yeah,
yeah,
totally guilty. I remember I got some footage, and I got a free app on my phone, and I was just like, I'm just gonna use this. I'm not gonna say the name you cut, but I put it all together. I put this horrible piano. It wasn't horrible piano music, but it was like, eh. But I did the same thing. It was like every time there was a transition, it was like, okay, swipe left. Next one, swipe right.
Yep.
Okay, swipe up, swipe down. And I was just like keeping track of it. And I was like watching. I'm like, oh my God. And I put it on the YouTube channel. Like when I very first started, I was like, put it up there. I was all proud. And then I figured stuff out and I went, goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please don't watch that.
Yeah, I still have the old stuff up on my channel. Yeah. I haven't ever gotten rid of it. I mean, I did it. It's there, so.
That was the only one that I've ever deleted. I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
No thanks. But it's pretty cool, like watching your videos. You came around before I knew you. So you and I just met, in June? May?
This year?
May, yeah, this year. So a few months now. And I had no idea who you were. And well, I knew who you were when we met, but I somehow, when you get into the rabbit hole of YouTube,
yep,
things just pop up and start playing, right? So at the time, I was doing a lot of like the bigger names that everybody knows, right? So I was watching like On Her Bike and Itchy Boots.
Brett Tax, probably.
Brett Tax, lots of Brett Tax, and started to come around. And then at some point, Ben showed up, Dork in the Road, and I was like, okay. So I started watching his stuff, and it was like very quickly, I'm like, bro, he's around here, Okay, that's cool. And so
I started watching his stuff because I thought his channel name was hilarious.
Oh yeah,
that's why I started watching him.
I remember the first time I saw his intro, I was like, dude, yes.
Yeah.
Like all of our generation, like all of us went right back to the 80s.
Yep.
Here we are.
Yep.
Right there.
Yep.
So I started watching it, and then it was just like, he's not a superstar guy. He's just your average dude.
He's just a regular guy like everybody else.
Right. So I was like, okay, this is cool. So I started watching him, and at some point, I would just do the autoplay. One of your videos showed up.
I'm sorry. Was it at least a good one?
Yeah, it was actually some camping stuff.
Oh, nice.
And so I was like, well, who's this dude? So I was kind of watching it, and I'm like, well, he's around here too, So I kind of started watching. I started getting familiar with you, and then this whole crazy motorcycles and pancakes thing started, and I got on, the Instagrams and stuff, and started going, and it was like all of a sudden it was like Ben and you were starting to pop up quite a bit, and I was like follow.
Yeah,
and it was just like, okay, and then getting to know other people, and then it was all of a sudden like my friends and your friends and just our inner circles just started going around, and then finally we ended up meeting.
That's how it happens.
Yeah. It's totally cool.
Yeah.
But I think I mean you as far as like my YouTube and stuff, I'm nothing, right? It's coming maybe slowly, I don't know, but like a lot of the people that I am friends with, I'm so happy because it's just the success that you guys have and stuff. It's just awesome to watch, and then to meet you guys and everybody's just like, cool. There's sometimes you meet people and you're like, oh, you're a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have yet to meet anybody like that. I think in this space.
Yeah,
right?
this ADV community is stellar.
Right. And I mean, for the most part, every creator that I've met or ended up getting a chance to hang out with, or actually becoming friends even away from the whole YouTube thing, like Ben, we've actually become friends.
Right.
I don't know if he would agree with me on that, but it's whatever.
Well, we still want to know who the big spoon is. You guys won't answer that, but it's fine.
We switch.
You switch
off. Yeah.
You flip the coin.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I for the most part, I haven't met anybody that is even a different person away from what their content is.
Right.
You hear that there's some people out there that put on a persona for their videos. I don't think I've met anybody that I can recall that's like that yet.
No, and those people that are doing that are probably not good YouTube channels, because a lot of people will pick that up, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is a very true statement. So, 2 years ago, not the last Giant Loop, but Giant Loop 2022, I was going to go to it, right? And then my dad, at whatever point, was like, well, we don't need to go pay for that. We just make our own routes. So we were actually, I think at the same time, we were on our own ride and kind of in that area, you know. But, which actually, dude, that was an awesome trip, really. But I kind of regret not going to it because I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I'm glad I didn't go to it last year because I was more familiarized. I had more friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I got there, it wasn't, I said it in one of my videos, it's like where friends get together for a family reunion, because that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's not just like people.
No.
It's,
yeah, you know 90% of the people that are there.
Right.
And you might know some better than others, but you know them. Right?
Yeah, it's 90% of the people there are just stellar, fantastic people.
Mm-hmm.
There were some people that I think we call the hoverers, So I think you and Ben and everybody get those people just hanging around.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. And it's just...
It's usually when I notice something like that, it doesn't happen to me that often, but if I notice one, I'll go right up and talk to them and just try to make them feel included.
That's good.
Because if I get the sense that the hoverer isn't wanting to initiate the contact or just talking to somebody or whatever, just because they're really shy or something. And I am actually an introvert. I've been that really shy kid before.
Yeah.
And I know it feels horrible, because you're watching all this fun happening and you want to be included. You just don't know how to initiate it.
Right.
So I will, if I notice a hover, I'll go up and talk to them and, just include them and stuff like that to try and break the ice a little bit.
And that says a lot about your character too.
I mean, it's just,
absolutely.
It's just, I am just a regular guy like everybody else. I just happen to film my stupid, It's literally what I am.
We all feel this stupid.
Yeah.
That's actually just one of the really good things that you can actually say to anybody. Like if you are an introvert and you see somebody that you watch on the YouTubes or a musician or something, it's easier just to say hi.
Yeah.
That hi.
Yeah.
And let it go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes, a lot of people are coming up to Critter. And he and I were together a lot at Giant Loop. So
yeah, it was a bromance.
Oh, totally. We're the power couple,
right? It was
right?
cute.
Thanks. Oh my gosh. But there was people that would come up to him, and then there would be also people that were kind of backing away
on the outskirts.
Yeah, that he wouldn't really necessarily notice. And it took me a little bit because I thought it was just people observing, like just watching. But then after a while, I was like, tap. Like, hey, look at this guy or look at this or whatever. And, I would start like Critter's, say in front of me and I'm off to the side of him, but I'm looking at kind of beyond Critter where he's at the other people. I would do kind of your take. Like I would wave at them or something and be like, hey, come over here. Or at least try to be like welcoming.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
They're ours. There are generally sometimes probably less than the 1% of the hovers that are just weird, though. And I noticed one person in particular, their giant loop, where I was just like, oh, man, you're back? And it was awkward.
Yeah.
You know, just this one in particular, it was like every time you turned around, hi, hey, what's going on? You guys filming today? Yeah. You know?
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, where are you going to be? And I was
Yeah.
just like, if you want to be in the video, man, just come say hi and just hang out, you know? But
Mhm.
the way that he was conducting himself, I think, I'll tell you who it is off air, and I think everybody was kind of the same.
I have a pretty good idea
Yeah.
probably already.
I think we were all kind of like, whoa, okay.
Mhm.
But so at what point through your YouTubies and it started growing, and I mean, you're monetized,
Mhm.
right? So how did that feel like before we move on to what I was originally going to ask? What was it like? Did you notice like the trajectory of your channel and be like, oh, I'm almost there? I almost got the watch hours and the viewership. Was it
Ye-
something you were targeted on, fixated on?
So this is my second channel. This is the second iteration of the channel. My first channel was BB&C, Beards, Bikes, and Camping. And it had back then I was way too hyper-focused on the analytics and driving myself crazy because of it.
Yeah.
So I had to force myself away from that. And in some ways I still do that, but nothing like what I used to. And I'm a lot happier for it now, for not hyper-focusing on analytics. And I got to hit this metric, or I have to be here at this time or whatever. You know, you want to have goals.
Yeah.
But that can't be the end-all, be-all type thing.
Right.
I had to delete that channel because they would not monetize me. When I hit the threshold, they would not monetize me because there was some glitch tied to it that made the YouTube algorithm think that the channel was going against TOS, Terms of Service, which I wasn't. It was the same thing I do now. So instead of trying to go through the entire channel and try and fix something that wasn't there, I deleted it, 100% start over. It's 100% new channel.
Yeah.
So to get away from that glitch, you know, and within under a year, I was already surpassed what I had done in 2 years on the other channel.
Oh, wow.
It happened very, very quickly. And it's, you know, I had a huge bump because a lot of my old followers came over from the old channel. Not all, but most.
Yeah.
So I had a huge bump. But when I got to that threshold, and I was working on, what was it? So I had hit the subscriber count, but then back then you had to get 4,000 watch hours within a 12-month period, right? They've recently changed those requirements.
Right.
They lowered it a little bit.
Yeah, the subscriber and the watch hours.
Yeah. Yep. Which is a good and a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it's 500 and 3,000.
In a rolling 12-month period.
Right.
And that is constantly reviewed.
Right.
Even 5 years down the road, if your channel takes a dive and you don't get 3,000 watch hours within a 12-month rolling period, you can get kicked out of the partner program.
Right.
And probably will. And then you'd have to reapply. So
yeah,
just keep uploading.
Yeah,
but yeah, it got to a point where it started growing, you know, a lot faster than what I was used to. It's like, man, with BB&C, I was putting out sometimes 2-3 videos a week. I don't do that anymore. I only do
that is
one
a
week.
schedule.
Yeah, I only do one a week now.
Yeah,
And even that, it can be because of the nature of moto camping. You have to have a destination that you're going to do or an event you're going to be at. During the wintertime, that's difficult.
Right.
So it's not always easy to get even one video out a week.
Yeah.
Right. So I was just trying to figure out what schedule I wanted to stick with and just try to stay consistent and not focus on the analytics as much. And when it happened, it just happened.
Yeah, I was guilty a little bit of the analytics in the beginning, and then I was just like, I don't care at this point. It got to the point to where my work schedule was kind of booming, and then, you know, as a business owner, there's so many stuff on the backside. It's more than just the driving or whatever, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I'm going to do all this too. So then you're trying to keep up on all the social medias. You're trying to keep up on all this stuff. And it became a little bit overwhelming. And I actually took a break off the YouTube for a minute, which probably was not smart for the analytics. but I kind of needed to get everything else in focus, kind of, you know, recalibrate,
Yep.
and do all of that. So now we're back doing our thing, but sometimes you just got to take that break.
Yep.
And just let things be how they are. You
Yep.
know?
And there is a way that you can do it to let YouTube know you are on a break,
Yeah.
so it doesn't affect you as much. And as long as you get into your community page, or you somehow tell your subscribers that, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm
Right.
going to be gone for a little bit. I will be back. The algorithm, it's not some computer program. The algorithm is technically your subscribers. It's
Right.
your people. That's what the algorithm is.
Yeah. Keep watching my
It's
videos.
what
for
their
next
habits
week.
are.
Yeah.
So if they know you're coming back, but they know you're on a break right now, you'll have a much easier time when you come back.
Yeah. Well, at the time when I took that break, I had a massive subscriber base. I think I was probably like 41 subscribers. total.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I mean, since then things have changed a little bit. But so when you did the BB&C
Mhm.
and you were dropping that channel to start up the new one,
Mhm.
right? Explore Adventure Moto.
Yep.
Bam.
Nice.
Thank you. For those of you, I always get his channel backwards. I always start with Adventure Explorer Moto, and now I know one's right and one's wrong, and I panic when I have to say it.
Right. And to be completely honest and completely fair, I told him this a little while ago. When I created the Explorer Adventure Moto, I misspelled it. So I had to go back in and edit it after other people had already noticed it and told me.
Mm-hmm.
So even I messed it up.
Yeah, but now we know it.
Yeah.
So when you did that, did you do a video? Like a,
Yes.
hey, what's up? Go to this now.
I did.
Smart. Okay.
Yep. And then I put I think this video is still on the new channel, kind of explaining why I had to do what I did.
You know what? I think you're definitely correct on that, because I remember again just letting the tubes flow
Mhm.
when you're cleaning the house or something.
Mhm.
So we had I don't know, one day I was just in the kitchen and I remember I just was watching somebody. I don't remember who I was watching, but all of a sudden I'm like, Travis is talking. What the hell is he? This is an old video. And kind of looking at stuff. You could just tell it was your one of the older videos or whatever. And I was like, okay, back to cleaning. So
Yeah.
it must have been that video, because I was all confused on what you were talking about,
Oh yeah.
because I didn't know about the BB&C at the time,
Right.
which you really have to say very slowly, because there's another term that's very close to that
Oh,
that
yeah.
people.
Yep. Yep.
Ay, ay, ay. So what point did your channel start growing and stuff that you were like starting to get invited to events, and I'm going to this event and trying to,
Yeah, it was this year was the first time I got invited to an event.
yeah.
And that was the Get on ADV Fest in Mojave.
Well, let's go there.
Mm.
Let's go to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did hear something exciting happen there when I saw a video of
Mhm.
your gymnastics. But before we get there, you know, what was that like going down to that event?
It was. I mean, it was cool because it was an event I got invited to, and it's. This was like a. This year was kind of like a secondhand invite. I was invited because Amanda of As the Magpie Flies couldn't go.
Oh,
So
okay.
she put me in touch, and she put me in contact with the digital media director, I think is her title, for Revzilla.
Yeah.
And I met her at the Oregon BDR premiere that was at the Aladdin Theater this year.
Yeah.
And we started talking. Then I ended up getting invited to the Get on ADV Fest in Mojave. So that was pretty cool. And while I was there, they were talking like they wanted to invite me back next year.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So
Ding.
I would rather go to the Black Hills in South Dakota for that one instead of Mojave, so I can go to the different one, because I'm not real big on sand riding anyway, and that's all there is in Mojave is just sand, sand, sand.
Right.
It's just, it's not my thing.
And you met some, didn't you meet on her bike?
I did.
There?
Yeah, Kinga. Yep.
Kinga, yeah.
Yep. Very cool lady.
Mm-hmm.
Very thick accent, even more so than what you see in her videos.
Really?
Difficult for me to understand at times, yeah, but great lady. Just really cool energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really awesome lady.
And imagine to be in that kind of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
You definitely got to just have that bigger than life.
Yeah, I gotta hang out and camp and ride with Ian, Big Rock Moto.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was in our little camp compound that we created, Then Jeff from ADV Agenda, he's one of Ian's friends. He was there. Who else? It was it was the guy. What is his name? Dang it! Sorry if you're listening to this, and I forgot your name. He was the Nelson Rig guy, Kyle Bradshaw.
Oh,
he was there also. He's the one that got the other point of view of my gymnastics.
Of your gymnastics?
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Right.
So I know about that event. I'm not familiar with that event, if that makes sense.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like to the giant loop, like what's the difference between the two? Like one's invite only, more industry based, right?
I would say the Get on ADV Fest it felt more industry based. It's not. It's not meant to be. It is still meant to be a customer appreciation thing.
Yeah.
Just like the Giant Loop is.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt kind of like it was more industry based. Yeah, different feel, but same thing. It's hard to describe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. And the riding styles are completely different between the two.
Very different.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you were saying that it's nothing but sand down there.
Sand. Well, you're in the Mojave Desert.
Right.
It's sand.
That's
Yeah.
all it is. Lower
Right.
the tire pressure and just go.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't lower tire pressure anyway. I never
Yeah.
adjust tire pressure on my bike.
I don't, but I think if it was all sand, I probably would try it.
Yeah, as far as traction goes, I never had an issue.
Yeah.
Not once.
So let's talk about gymnastics. So you can just go to his socials and see it if you haven't seen it yet. You took a pretty good spill, man.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up in the morning, and I don't remember if it was first thing in the morning or a little bit through the day, but I was like, what do you got going on here? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so let's just set it up. I mean, you guys just took off from camp for the day and
Yeah,
decided
we're
to do a ride.
going on a ride. We're going out to see what down there it's called the Husky Monument. And what that is there's an area in the Mojave Desert, if you're not aware, where they have a huge community of riders have informally put together a monument to friends and other riders that have passed away.
Okay.
And it's called the Husky Monument. It's because there's an old Husqvarna frame sitting out there as, as the headstone for all this stuff. And people leave like little mementos, and they put little plaques out there for all the riders. I mean, they're not actually buried there, but
Right.
it's just a monument to riders that have passed away and old friends that have passed away. That's the route that we were going on. And flying through the desert, I'd been doing 40, 50 miles an hour, zero problems. I just got that new suspension put on the bike, and it handles beautifully. It was perfectly set up for down there. It was great. Skipping across the top of whoops, going through sand washes, just, staying back, keeping light on the bars, but staying back a ways so the front end wouldn't dig in.
Yeah.
And it was doing great. 50 miles an hour, zoom, no problem. And then at one point, I see one of the guys that we were riding with. His name's Randall. He was a little bit ahead of us, and I see him waving his arms above his head. And at the time, I had been sitting down. So I stood up, and I started slowing down from 50, and I got all the way down to about 37, maybe 40 miles an hour. And he was waving his arms is because there was a dry riverbed there with a lot deeper sand in it. And it's like, okay, so went through that. Well, I didn't see the 1 foot solid ledge coming out of the river wash.
And that was the site he was standing on, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I hit that, and it was just instant chaos. Over the bars and fully somersaulted the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both of you just went
Yep.
flying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rung my bell, busted my toe, really screwed the bike up. It was the worst wreck I've ever been on on a motorcycle.
Right. Yeah. I don't think the violence of the video does it justice.
No.
You know,
no,
as
doesn't.
somebody that's crashed a few times,
Yeah.
you just know it is more intense than what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Because I saw you flying, I was like, oh my God, right? And then I saw the aftermath, and you were up, and I'm fine, or whatever you were saying, and people were checking in on you, but I was just like, he's not fine.
Yeah. No, my bell was wrong.
You don't hit like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people can say what they want about crashing. I think people who haven't really crashed is very easy to be like, maybe someone that's tipped over or a light crash, maybe, really slow or whatnot. But I've been down multiple times, like crashed.
Yeah.
And you with that, you have physical damage, but you have mental damage.
Very
as
much
well.
so. Yep, absolutely.
And that is the hardest one to come out and overpass it, so to speak.
Yeah, just that happened months ago, and just very recently, I'm finally starting to get out of my head and getting used to the feeling, even on gravel roads.
Yeah.
Deeper gravel roads. I'm starting to get used to that feeling again. But for a good long while, and to some extent, even now, it still freaks me out a little bit.
I was wondering on our ride the other day, if that was kind of in the headspace too a little bit.
Not so much anymore. It happens a lot more with like deep gravel where you really feel it. And I've never liked sand to begin with, but if I'm in a sandy area, it definitely rears its ugly head for sure.
Yeah, because there's things that trigger my mind. So I remember an unrelated non-motorcycle thing. I actually witnessed a guy get killed at work one time. And my mom was a victim advocate. So she had this conversation with me after the fact, and she's like, when something traumatic like this is happening, a certain smell or maybe the breeze was blowing a particular way, or something unrelated that might have been in the background as a visual.
You can trigger it.
Yeah, something will trigger and take you back there. And every once in a while, something, and I remember that day. But I think it's also the same, like, on my crashes, right? So I've had 2 crashes off-road that were bad. One, I broke a bunch of ribs, and the other one, I did my whole little chinny chin chin thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's feelings that the bike did right before both of those. Right. So I know not real recently, but, within the last couple months, I remember I was just flying down a road and I had a little pothole in front of me and I just wrapped the front just to keep that front end up. Right. And I remember the back end went up and it just kind of did this minor tilt.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Nothing big.
Yeah.
But my mind went right back to the crash.
Yeah. You want to grab a handful of brakes and slow down.
Yeah. Yeah,
which is the worst thing that you can do.
I think I actually did. I think if I remember right, I went through that and I was standing up, and I think I sat down and I did idle it back a little bit, and I was like, oh, and we're back.
Right.
But it was just that instant moment of just going back, of just crashing and breaking a bunch of ribs.
Yeah,
you're just right there. So, with that being said, I don't think people understand the longevity of, for lack of a better term, mental trauma that comes from a wreck. So I was just curious, like we were just talking about, like how long does it take somebody to really get over it? Well, I don't think it ever does.
And everybody's different.
Right.
Somebody, they don't get in their head about it at all. And then other people, it can take them years,
Those people that doesn't bother them at all, they're just weird. Mm. I don't know how else to say it. Mm-hmm. That's a different kind of mentality.
Right.
Because I do think that there are wrecks that happen that we need to definitely learn from. Mm-hmm. Situations that we need to learn from, for sure. Even if they're like the one with my chin, that was just so sporadic and spontaneous and just like the perfect storm of everything that just happened.
Yeah, and I've had 2 major incidents this year now, and I've learned from both of them. If they had happened like one a year, it's whatever. You just, deal with it, move on. Mm-hmm. Twice in 1 year, that's why I have begun to reevaluate what I'm doing and what I want to actually do on the big bike.
Right.
And I'm dialing it back, This twice in 1 year, no, I need to slow down.
Yeah, I've really been pushing myself on that big bike too. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, you're on a little 450. I'm following you. Mm-hmm. So what was the other one?
The heat stroke.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that one too. Yeah. So you decided to go through and try out for the Olympic gymnastics team.
Yeah.
So you got through and you're on the ground, you're getting up, people are coming over to you. What's in your head at this point? Like
Tweety birds. I don't, the only thing that I remember until quite a while after Randall had already picked my bike up and after I was standing up, the only thing that I remember from the time I hit until I woke up, standing up, was as I was flying by Kyle in the air, I just distinctly remember him saying, "Oh shit,"
Yeah.
as I
Yeah.
went past him. That's all I remember.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So, and then did you ride back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's when you know you're a man, right?
Wasn't trying to be a man. I just wanted
Yeah.
to get the hell out of the desert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just get back to camp. So you got back to camp.
And when I was riding back to camp, my steering wouldn't even go to full lock at that point either.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So you know, and that's the bad thing after a crash, because you got to go through and do your safety check, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that, well, am I going to crash again because something's broken?
Right.
Right. So you get back over to camp. I can't remember. I think you had your own tent, right? You weren't
Yeah,
staying
that was
with Ben.
tent camping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that must have been a little interesting to be beat up and laying on the ground for.
Yeah, the
couple
the
days.
next day we were supposed to go on another ride, and I couldn't even get my boot on because my toe. I mean, my toe was broken. It was swollen.
Yeah.
And my whole body was sore. I was beat up. And the whole next day, I literally stayed around camp. I stayed in the shade in Ben's trailer just so I could have some shade. I just walk around. Well, not walk. I was limping pretty hardcore around hobbling around the event grounds. Yeah, and by that time, people at the event had already heard about the incident.
Yeah.
So I was getting people coming up to me right and left for the next couple of days. Hey, are you the guy that just flipped your bike? Yes, yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
I think I would want to get known for other things.
Yeah, please. I
Yeah.
don't recommend getting known for that.
Yeah. No. So then you were there for what, 2 more days?
Yep.
And then you trailered down there.
No, I rode down.
Did you ride home?
Yep.
Holy hell. I didn't know that
I
part.
straightened the bent parts out enough so I could get full steering again.
Uh-huh.
'Cause there was no mechanical damage to the bike at all. It all ended up being like cosmetic and just that front subframe for the plastics.
Mm-hmm.
I bent stuff out of the way enough, so I rode it home.
I, for some reason, was under the impression that it was trailered back.
Nope. Ben was following behind me. He was about 20 miles behind me the whole way home, and we ended up camping at Lake Shasta on the way back. But he stayed behind me the whole time in case either my body couldn't deal with it or the bike couldn't deal with it. So I would stop, and then we would load me into the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to try and finish the trip on the bike like I started.
I think maybe that's the one that I got confused on, because I think he did a short or something there, and I don't really remember everything about it, but I want to say that is the one where I thought he was trailering it home for you.
Mm-mm. No,
So-
that was going to be the option in case I
Yeah.
couldn't get it roadworthy.
Man, and then you got home. I remember you put up the final video of, I think it was a short too, or maybe on Instagram Reel or whatever, but you put the Band-Aid on it.
Yeah,
I was like, touche.
2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's classic.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
Heck yeah. So you get done with that ride, and then how long you decided, like, well, then you went to Giant Loop after that.
Yep.
That was the next one.
Yeah, Giant Loop was just a couple of weeks after that.
Yeah. That's right, because I remember walking over and looking at the bike and going, yeah, the Band-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time we met in person. No, excuse me, not met in person, but we rode together the first time then.
Right.
Yeah, I remember, well, we might as well just recap GL since we're here.
There you go.
So we shouldn't say this because we don't want people to do this, but we get there the day before, and it turns out to be, that's when the real family reunion is, right?
Oh, it's the best day of the entire event.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the best night. Is
Yeah.
that first night?
the best night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Not for some of us.
right. We won't say anything. And again,
somebody had. We won't mention his name, Ben. Had a little bit of
you
Ben
said it.
had a little bit of a rough time that evening, but
He really did. And you know, my claim to fame on this whole story too is I remember I have a really hard time sleeping in, right? It's just a curse of my industry. It's just like I'm always up early. And I remember getting up, like waking up, and I sat up in my tent. So at the top sections of my tent, I have everything unzipped so I could just see out, right? And I literally, as soon as I stood up, something caught to the right side of my eye, and I see Ben going into the porta potty. And I'm like, okay, so he's in there, but you could hear the porta potty. And this is a good 50 yards away from me. right? But you can hear, you know. I was like, oh no. And then I'm thinking to myself, that's not where I'd want to throw up at all, right? And then found out what was really going on. I was like, oh no. But the funny part for me was I've kind of started to get out my sleeping bag and stuff. He walks out, and I just hear the door go thack, right? And so I look back over there. He makes it like 4 or 5 steps, and then turns right back around and goes to the left side of the porta potty and just starts puking over the fence. And I was just like, oh, that poor guy. And then I heard the rest of the stories about the rest of the night that I didn't know about and all. I was just like, oh, man.
Yeah, we tied it on pretty good that night.
Oh,
yeah.
That blueberry whiskey was delicious.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that night was really fun. But I remember when we got there, I was like, I really wanted to go for a ride. And everybody was like, we're just going to hang out. We're just going to hang out. And you were like,
that first day?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. We did. We went a little ways up Stinking Water.
Yeah. And you were like, hey, I'm going to go right up there, and you were just going to go by yourself. And I'm like, you want company? Like, I was pretty eager to get on a ride and just go, especially that camp was set up. And now, the bags are off. Your bike's a little lighter, because we spent a couple days camping and riding to get there.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Dude, that was a good trip. But it was really fun. Like, I had no idea your riding style. Had no idea. And so I was like, I will just follow you. You know where you're going. You wanted to check out Stink Water. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was the initial scout trip.
Right.
For their training they were going to do later.
Yeah, Ben was going to take a bunch of the veteran back 40 guys out.
Yes, yep.
So, hey, there's a flag right there.
There it is.
I remember getting on the bike, taking off, and riding down the road. And I'm like, okay, cool. We hit the gravel. I'm like, okay, how's he going to ride on the gravel? And you went faster. And I was like, all right, I like this. And then we hit the actual trail. I've never been on it before. And I remember looking down. We were doing like 45, 47 on there. I'm like, yep. Okay, I love it. So we got over. We had a little conversation. You saw what you needed to see. And then you're like, how was the tempo? And I'm like, yep. Like, I think I told you this at the time too, but I think I probably would have been a little slower just because I've never been on it before.
Sure, yeah.
But I was like, if I can watch you and the road that's coming up,
it makes it a lot easier.
It does.
That's one of the reasons why I like to. It's one of the reasons why I don't like to lead, particularly in an area where I haven't ridden before. It makes it so much easier when you see somebody in front of you doing it already.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can pick a different line. Or, all else fails, you just take the line that they did because they just made it.
Right.
So
yeah, and that's essentially what I was doing. I followed you for a long time, and then we had this section that just like poof, all this dust came up, and I moved over to the left side of the road, and I saw my line, but I saw you up there too, and I was kind of trying to get in that low, right? So right where the dust is coming up, but you're out of it, so you're kind of close to each other. I tried to ride there for a while, and it was just like, this is. Our riding styles were just right there together. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
It was that road was actually in great shape this year. I've seen it way worse than that, where it was very rutted and the rocks.
Yes.
So
yes. Well, that road actually turned out to be kind of crappy after that full evening and night of rain.
Oh yeah, it's just that dirt turns to grease. Anything that's dirt out there is just grease when it's wet.
Oh, I call it zombie mud.
Yeah,
it's just that gooey, sticky, slippery. It's like no other because we actually a year before we were doing a ride with my dad and the neighbor Dave, and we were out kind of in that area. We're kind of over by the Painted Hills actually. Okay, so Mitchell, Oregon, and the Painted Hills.
Yeah, beautiful area.
Oh, it's gorgeous over there. But we were going back and we were riding over this ridge, and we were actually doing the old BDR Route 4.
Okay.
So we got to Scott Camp or Scott Campground or whatever it's called, just outside of Mitchell on the route.
Yeah.
And we all kind of got there, and we knew the weather report was bad for the next day. And that's kind of the point, the turnoff where you have a really good gravel road to go back into the town of Mitchell.
Yeah.
And goes back to the highway.
Right.
Or if you keep going straight, it actually just gets more, I mean, you're out of the woods at that point, and you've entered the wilderness. Clear difference between woods and wilderness, right?
Very much so.
So we made a decision. I mean, they were calling for like over an inch of rain or something in that point the next day. So we were like, we don't want to get, 50 miles out there and then just have this turn into just an absolute ice rink catastrophe.
Yep.
So we went to Mitchell, and we ended up leaving the town, and we're like kind of just free-forming it to get over towards Madras again. And we got into this part where this is the perfect example of what happens to this dirt over there. So you have a little bit of this dusty layer that just, when it's dry, you create the dust and it lands on the top of the dirt.
Yep.
Right. And then you have the dirt underneath of it. And we were riding, and we got into it just like not really a sprinkle, but not a rain, right? Just that perfect in between. It literally made it like the perfect compound to turn everything to cement. It would not clear out of your tires, no matter how much you brapped.
Mm-hmm.
And then it actually got to a point to where it locked up our front wheels between the fender and the tire.
Yeah.
So we had to undo the front fenders and lift them up and brake lines. And I mean, it took us well over 3 hours for what should have been a 15-minute section.
Yeah.
You know, and that is the reason, friends, I have a high fender kit now.
Right.
I will never have that happen again.
Yeah.
But that is exactly what is over in the Eastern Oregon. So the giant loop ride. So when it started raining, that's what it turned everything into.
Yeah.
So if you're unfamiliar with this topography of, you know, this kind of an environment over here, that's what we ride in when it starts raining.
Yeah, it gets so slippery.
Yeah. And there was a bad wreck on there that afternoon. We came up.
There's a couple of them this year.
Were they both on Stinkwater?
No,
there
was one that was further west, I think.
Yeah, the one on Stinkwater. I don't really know what happened. I think there was a broken leg, and we were riding.
Yeah, actually, because the guy messaged me on Instagram and said he was the one that.
Yeah. So while you're looking for that, we went on a ride, and we hooked back up with Stinkwater, and we're riding it back to camp. So we were kind of riding it the opposite way, and we were riding down the trail, and we had a group stop us and say, hey, just down here a little bit, there is somebody that wrecked, and there's a bunch of people around, just be careful. And I think that's what happened, is they got into some of that greasy, slick stuff.
Yeah, they were trying to blast through a puddle. Trying to blast through a puddle, and it got away from them.
That was a huge puddle.
Yep.
Huge puddle, too.
Yep.
That was like a small pond,
mm-hmm.
you know, and that's the dangerous part, because you don't know what's under it.
Right.
Because it was mud water.
Yep.
You know.
And as soon as the Jeeps or sides by sides go through there,
it's rutted.
Ruts.
Yeah.
And it's all that's under the water. If your tire contacts the side of a rut underwater,
oh yeah, gonzo.
You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hard. And then your bike's in the water.
Yep.
That's no fun.
Nope.
Yeah, we turned the corner, and he was laying on the side, and I was just like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to put together kind of what happened just based on the marks, but there was probably 6 or 7 people there all around him, so I wasn't really sure what marks were his or what direction he was going or whatever, but man, it didn't look good.
Yeah.
I really felt for him. And I did hear there was another one. It wasn't that year. Harold said something in passing or something about somebody getting airlifted out a couple years ago, or maybe I misinterpreted it, but I was just like, oh man, can you imagine that?
Mm-hmm.
That would suck.
Yeah.
That's why you belong to Global Rescue, friends.
Right. Yeah.
Little shameless plug for something I use.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That was a wonderful event, actually, you know.
Yeah, it's fun. Giant Loop is fun every year.
Yeah, it's just the food, the free beer. I thought it was hilarious. Like the first night before everything, the beer showed up, and Sean from Veteran Back 40 kept showing up. Like, here's beer. Here's some more beer.
Right. Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, we got the inside scoop there.
Yeah, and we were sitting on top of the hill just above that, and there was, I don't know how many times anybody from this little area, the people that we were hanging out with, would just walk down and open up the cooler, hey guys, and grab a beer and take off and go back up there.
Right.
I was like, every day here's a 20. Here's
Yeah,
a 20.
it's good to be in the know.
Yeah.
And to know those guys.
Yeah. It was definitely a lot of fun. So I originally contacted you, or not contacted, but just asked you, like, hey, you want to do the podcast? And you're like, oh, I'm kind of busy. I got the BDR coming up, so on and so on. And I was like, oh, let's wait for sure until after you ride the BDR.
Mm-hmm.
So let's...
And Tour Tech happened also.
Oh,
Yep.
Tour Attack happened actually before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tour Tech was like, what, 2 or 3 weeks after Giant Loop?
Right. I was supposed to go to that, and it fell through. Work was getting crazy and stuff. But, well, let's hit Tour Tech since that's brought up right now. So, how was that?
It's fun. That's a fun event.
Yeah.
Every year, just like Giant Loop. It's the riding is very different. It's more woods riding. It's more forested riding, like what we're used to up around where we're at here.
Yeah.
It's not desert stuff. There a couple of the routes you're actually on the Washington BDR, like when you're going up to Chumstick and then coming back down the one of the lookout tower routes that you can go on up there.
That's cool.
And lots more people. There was, I think, 1,500 people there this year.
So roughly a little over double.
Yeah, and the event grounds is also much larger than where Giant Loop is, takes place. So it feels larger. It feels more like an event instead of Giant Loop being the customer appreciation thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's still fun in its own way, though.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people definitely went there. I've seen some of the videos that have came out, and then I was on Tall Man Moto's live stream last week or whatever, and I can't remember if we talked about it on the live stream or the day before. We were trying to get our systems to talk to each other because it was remotely, so we spent like well over an hour trying just to get them to talk to each other, and I think him and I ended up just sitting around like online just kind of bullshitting for a little bit for probably close to another hour maybe. So I remember they were talking about like just the magnitude of the riders and the trails and stuff, and how some people would go different directions.
Yep.
And I think there was one accident where people ran into each other because they're not riding right.
Right.
That's what I was told. But also Soils Man was up there and took a group of them because, that's his home area.
Yep.
And ended up taking people on his own little excursion.
He does that every year.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was like, man, that would be having the local guy taking you on the cool roads kind of away from everybody.
Yep. He knows some great places to go see.
Yeah. He's just a stellar dude anyways.
He is, yeah. Soils is I love Pete.
Yeah, except I didn't get to eat some of his food there at Giant Loop. I keep hearing about it. I'm like,
yeah, his food's good too.
What? He'll throw me some messages and stuff about pancakes or whatever. I guess he's got a recipe for smoked pancakes on the Traeger or on the smoker. I'm like, I'm there.
Nice.
Let's try these out.
How does he get the batter to stay on the grates?
I don't. Maybe he does it like in a, I don't know, like an iron skillet or something.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I'd be curious.
Blackstone for the win.
Oh, Blackstone for sure for the win.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think Tour Tech would be a lot of fun to definitely put on the schedule next year. I kind of have something I'm planning next year, and I'm looking at the timing, and I'm not really sure on when the Tour Tech will be.
It's usually third weekend of June.
Yeah, there's
it's usually 2 to 3 weeks right after Giant Loop every year.
So depending on the timing of everything, so there's a lot going on to it, but it could very well end somewhere around Tour Tech, which would mean we would end that little adventure project thing, and then maybe just go to Tour Tech, and just kind of that'd be the final hurrah of it, or whatever. So I don't know. There's a lot to do between now and then, but I definitely wouldn't mind hitting that up next year for sure.
It's a good time. If you've never been, you should definitely go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just getting new to all of this, going to these events and stuff,
Yep. I mean, they cost money, right?
Yeah.
But in my opinion, it's money very well spent, because you're not just paying for a place to camp. You're not just paying to get meals or whatever, which I don't. I typically bring my own food or whatever.
And have Pop-Tarts in the middle of the night.
Have Pop-Tarts in the middle of the night, apparently. Yeah, I still can't figure that one out. But it's just the whole atmosphere is just awesome. Definitely worth it.
Yeah, that's really what I'm learning is to do that. And again, that comes. I'm not throwing shade down towards my pops or anything, but that's kind of something there where he's like, "Oh, we'll just do our own rides. We can do this. We can do that. It's this is free. Free, right? Still has cost to it, but
sure.
the camaraderie, the friendship, the family, the chosen family.
Yep.
I mean, that's just second to none.
Yep.
For
Exactly.
sure. So you bounce out of there, you go home, and you start getting ready for the ORBDR.
Yeah. By the time we got back from Tour Tech, I had 1 week to get ready to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
short turnaround.
I know your timeline was getting pretty close, and I think Critter wanted to do that too, but his timeline was like, I can't.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
And I was like, well, I'll tag along too. But I was really excited. So going back to what I said earlier, we kind of wanted to wait until after you rode this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just kind of get the recon of the trip and everything,
Right.
you know. So your preparation, I think a lot of people don't understand the prep that goes on to do a moto camp trip, especially an extended adventure like that.
Well, a BDR is not a motocamp trip. It's a very different animal.
Yeah, yeah,
You're not a motocamp trip. You're riding to camp. On a BDR, multi-day trip, where you're going to be staying in a different spot every single night, and you're going to be very remote in a lot of instances. You are camping to ride, so you take a lot less stuff.
right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
two very different things.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's actually a very good point
Yeah,
to bring up, because I think sometimes it can be a little deceiving. Say you're a new rider and you're just starting to get into ADV, or even if you come from, like, let's just say the Harley world,
Mhm.
right? And you're more of just a day cruiser or
Yep.
the trip cruiser, just out and backs. And now you're like, oh, gravel roads and camping. Man, new people, they have no idea of the backside of that, and the planning and
Yep.
the gear, you know, and then what bags do you buy? What panniers are you putting on? You know, what brands or whatever. Always do giant loop people.
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
you know, trying to get all that in. And I think it's a little bit deceiving sometimes, because somebody can watch, you know, the BDRs, you know, especially like the movie, the Oregon BDR, right? Because
Mhm.
you don't see that part of it really.
Well,
know?
yeah, and I mean, like, that kind of those premieres. You can't take those as what your experience is going to be when you do finally ride a BDR, because every one of those movies, they have a support truck
Right.
that carries all their food and a lot of their gear.
Yeah.
They might have the bags on their bikes, but they're still not carrying all their gear.
And
Right.
that's
It's
again
very different.
the very deceiving part, because if you don't understand that,
Hmm.
and you're like, oh, I watched Nathan and he only had these little bags on and they did all this, and it's like,
Well, for the most
You
part, they
know.
were carrying their own stuff, but like with food and
right.
things,
But
and
that
all
food
yeah.
still, if you're going to go out, say for 5 days,
Yep.
and you're going to be rural for 5 days,
Right.
I mean, you've got 5 days worth of food in there.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a breakfast. So for me, I'm not much of a lunch guy while I'm out there. So at least there's a breakfast and a dinner,
Hmm.
right? Maybe some snackies through the day.
That's what we kind of did last year on the Washington BDR, and this year the way I packed for Oregon is I took enough food for the first day, and then after that I had no food for the entire week, because every time you stop for gas, you either get food at it's usually a mini mart,
Right.
or you go to a restaurant or whatever. You don't need to take 7 days of food with you. You will be going through towns where you can pick up groceries for that day. And that way you can keep your packing smaller and lighter.
That's very good advice. I will counterpoint you.
Mhm.
I think maybe not all the days, but I am always worried about the what if.
Yeah, I take
So-
I take one or two
Yeah.
like freeze-dried meals for a just
Yeah.
in case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oops.
Yep.
We're going to be out here an extra day, and that was unplanned.
Right.
Yeah, that's really where I stand. I want to be a little bit more prepared
Yep.
for the oh crap moments.
Right.
You know, maybe you have a mechanical and you're going to be out there another day. Your bike's dead,
Yep.
right? So you're getting geared up.
Mhm.
You're doing your packing. You guys you went back to Crane Creek, right? To meet.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you ride there? Or?
rode? Yeah.
Good. I think Ben trailered some of it.
Been trailered to Crane Springs.
So
Yes.
is that actually an official BDR ride then?
Oh yeah, because that's not where the BDR starts.
Well, I know, but part of it is riding to it.
Him and I rode all the way up to the Canadian border last year to start the Washington BDR. So
Okay, that counts.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So you got down, and Denio Junction, I believe, is where it starts, right?
It's the official start, and then the alternate start is in Fields,
In Fields.
which is where we started.
Okay.
Yeah.
The most important question, actually,
Mm.
that I can actually ask you about the beginning of this at Fields is, was there a burger and milkshake involved?
Milkshake, and did I have fries? Maybe fries. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, if you go anywhere around Fields, friends, go to Field Station and get yourself a burger and milkshake. 100%.
Yep.
It's delicious.
Yep. The wait ends up being a little bit long, but it's worth it.
Yeah, depending on, man, sometimes you get there and there's just so many people. You're like,
Even when there's not a bunch of people, it still takes them a little while to get stuff done. Yeah.
yeah, it's like you're in the middle of nowhere.
Mhm.
How is there 50 people here?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's a destination.
Right, and they land the planes there to fuel
Yep.
up and stuff too. It's
Yeah, they do.
crazy. So you started at Fields,
Mhm.
and what was the first? What were your first thoughts when you got on the road, on the trail?
On the trail, well, when you first get onto it, it's gravel roads, and they kind of wind through the sagebrush, and then you're going back over through a pass fairly quickly right after you start, and it immediately starts getting rocky with rocky switchbacks and stuff. And it's it's not technical, but it's not easy. It's not hard, but it's not easy. Just pick your lines, keep your momentum, because you're going uphill around this stuff to get through this pass, and then you're back on just wide open gravel roads for a long time, and then you start hitting more and more rocky sections and more rocky sections, and the rocks get bigger and a little bit less embedded,
Yeah,
and while we were out there, it was 95 degrees. So, and it's remote. There are no towns
right.
that you're going past unless you go literally sideways off the route for 50 miles. You are way out there.
Man, that definitely sounds like the temperature.
Mhm.
That's a hot temperature
It was very hot.
for sure, and
Yep.
all the gear all the time, right? So
Yep.
everybody's wearing everything.
Yep. I had already drank probably 3 liters of water before noon.
Wow.
Mhm.
How much did you take with you?
I had the 3 liters in my pack,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had 2 48-ounce Nalgene bottles in my bags that I still had.
Okay.
Yep.
Boy, that's going through the water in a hurry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was hot.
And that actually getting up to what happened,
Mhm.
that's really good information to know too.
Mhm.
So you got up day one. I mean, it's just very rural, sandy,
Yep.
a little bit rocky.
Mhm.
Maybe that's what you were talking about, just like kind of
The
sand and rock.
the sand wasn't near as bad as what everybody made it sound like it was going to be. It's a different type of sand. It's it's more like that dirty sand. So the sand wasn't that bad. It was just little patches of it. It was the rocks that got me. This 550-pound bike. It's a big bike to be muscling over those rocks. And it wasn't just. We got into some parts on this route where it's not just sections of rocks. It's rocks for miles on end, in the heat.
Right.
on muscling the big bike, and it ended up getting to me.
So the rock, so to set up the visual, right?
Mhm.
So there's different kinds of rocks in this area, right?
Mhm.
Well, all across the country, but in our area, we have a lot of rocks that are just bigger, looser rocks
Mhm.
mixed in with the sand.
Mhm.
But we also have like rock that's embedded in the ground.
Yes.
It doesn't move.
Right.
That's more of like almost like an old volcanic style rock.
Yep.
I think it actually is volcanic.
That's what a lot of this was, but it also
Yeah.
has some of the large loose stuff on top of it.
Like the tops that have been breaking off
Mhm.
and just kind of sitting in there.
Mhm.
Yeah, that actually is a very different kind of rock than the loose rock.
Mhm.
Like we go back to riding 4220 with my dad. We were talking about where you got off,
Yep.
right? Totally different beasts right there.
Mhm.
That, how would you describe it to somebody that doesn't know? It's just like, picture just like miles of rock coming out of the ground and being one of the roughest surfaces that you can ride on.
Right.
That's what you're on,
Yeah.
right? It's not a smooth rock. It's just like they super glued baseballs on top of it,
Yeah.
essentially.
Right.
And baseballs and golf balls,
Yeah.
those sizes. And it's just an attached rock to the ground that's unforgiving.
Right.
And you just have to go over it.
Yep. Yeah. And when you're in a rocky section, there's very rarely a place that you can actually stop.
Yeah.
You just got to get through it and get to a place where you can stop.
And if you're talking for miles,
Right.
you're like, yay,
Yeah.
this is fun.
Yeah, and then when we get out there, we got towards the Heart Mountain Antelope Refuge, and they had gated it. They had put a chain across, so we had to find a way back through. We had to turn around and find a way through because I was already kind of feeling a little bit of heat exhaustion at that point.
Yeah.
And I was done. I was ready to be at camp. I was frustrated. I had taken a wrong turn at one point due to my GPS messing up, and I expended a lot of energy. Ben and I did, getting the bike turned around on a single track on the side of a hill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you're running point.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. I wasn't running point. The guys took off this way, and because of the dust and stuff, I glanced down at my GPS, which was taking me the wrong way. And by the time I realized what happened, that's when I saw them over here.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it was a double track that turned into a single track cow trail on the side of a hill that dead ends. And I'm on my twin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I had to lay the bike down on the ground. We drug it around so we get it turned around.
And it was on a hill?
It was like side hilling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't do the kickstand thing and turn it around.
There was nowhere to do kickstand. Yeah. So my energy was already gone by that time. And then we figured out we're going to have to turn around and we didn't want to go all the way back to the bypass because that was another hour just to get to that. So we our way through all this other super rocky stuff. And on the way to that, I started tunnel visioning out while I was riding.
Oh,
and so I was just feeling really hot. It's like Ben was behind me. I stopped, put my kickstand down. And I saw there was a little ledge about like maybe this tall.
So like 3 feet, 4 feet?
Yeah. A rock ledge that was affording like a 2-foot sliver of shade. It's like I gotta lay down. I am screwed right now.
Yeah. In rattlesnake country.
Yeah, and I mean at that point I was already screwed because I already had the diarrhea.
Oh boy.
Which is real bad. If you get to that point, you're in bad shape. It's the closest I've ever come to actually hitting my SOS button.
No kidding.
Yeah, we were there for 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and I was just laying flat on my back in the shade. Tim gave me, it's called goo.
Yep.
It's like a little
gel pack.
Yeah, it's a gel pack. I had one of those. Ben gave me one of his like a Powerade thing.
Yeah.
I had the rest of my water that I had left, and I was done right there. We just needed to get the hell out of there. So I got to the point where I could probably get back on my bike and keep going, and we did over more rocks for another hour to get out of there. We got to one point where the rocks got so bad, I literally could not ride my bike. Tim had to get on my bike at one point and ride it for me to get through this section because I had no energy left. And that's the first time in my life anybody's ever had to do that for me. And that's when I was in my head, it's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I am really done.
Well, then there's also going to be a little bit of a worrisome panic almost involved with that too, because you're like, at that point, you're like, yo,
yeah,
something's going on.
Yeah, and
I don't feel right.
Yeah, and we have to get. I mean, I've done EMT and first aid stuff and things like that. So I had an idea that I probably had heat exhaustion. I had no idea I was like full heat stroke at that point, which I was.
Yeah,
that's what my doctor told me I was. But when we finally got out of there, we got to camp. We camped at the Hot Springs campground, and they must have just had a hatch because there was about 9 billion mosquitoes there.
Oh man.
Yeah, but it was a beautiful little campground right next to this little creek. We had shade in amongst like these aspen trees and stuff. It was really pretty. But I set up my camp chair. I set up my tent, and I sat down on my camp chair, and that's when I started throwing up also.
Dude, I didn't know you were throwing up too.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I was, and I wasn't even getting up out of my chair. I was just like this. I was out of it. Just back and forth to the outhouse, and that I was in bad shape.
Dude, that is not good at all.
No. So it's the next day when I got up, we finished our way into Plush because we only had like 5 more miles to get to Plush. They didn't have gas because their gas pumps were broken.
Right.
We had breakfast there, but I still was feeling like bad.
But at least their worst case scenario, emergency personnel, easier to get to a Plush.
Right. Yeah. So we had breakfast, which I actually should have done at that point. I should have had somebody come trailer my bike home and gone in an ambulance at that point, considering what the doctor told me when I got back.
Right. Which we'll get to, right?
Right.
If you want.
No gas and plush. So we had breakfast. We rode to Lakeview to fill up the bikes.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm thinking, I told the guys, I can't ride off road today. I'm gonna ride ahead and go to Christmas Valley, while those guys backtracked and did section 2 to Christmas Valley, and I was gonna meet them in Christmas Valley. Just the ride to Christmas Valley was excruciating, just even on the pavement, because I was having problems just concentrating and focusing, and it's still like 98 degrees, right?
Right.
I mean, wind or no wind, so and just uncomfortable. My whole body felt like one large muscle cramp that would never stop.
Oh, dear Lord!
Yeah, every single muscle in my body felt like this table. It was so knotted up, every single muscle. So get to Christmas Valley. I got us a couple of rooms at the Desert Inn Motel just so I get AC.
Right.
I told them where I was going to be, and I was feeling a little bit better, and then my digestive system stopped kind of working. I'm thinking, that's weird. I've never heard of that happening before. But
What do you mean it just stopped working? It just wasn't.
No poo, just blood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Ding, ding.
Yeah. So, got something to eat, came back, and at 6:30 I went to lay down. I didn't wake up until 6 in the morning, the next morning.
Oh, wow.
Just laying there in the AC. I probably got up to go pee a couple times or whatever, and that's when I was like, nope, I'm done. I got to go home.
Yeah.
And that was Monday. So I rode all the way home from Christmas Valley. Got home, I got on the phone, and my doctor fortunately was able to get me in that same day within an hour of me getting home.
Right.
Went in and saw the doctor. He goes, yep, they did blood tests. They took my vitals and all that stuff. Said, yep, you had severe heat stroke, not heat exhaustion. And the reason why those other symptoms were happening is because your internal organs started shutting down.
Dude, so you were literally dying.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, so he said, go home, stay in the AC, take a lot of water, drink Gatorade or Powerade just to get sugar and other stuff in there. And they took a blood test to check my blood count to see if I was going to need a transfusion even. That was actually on the table at one point.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know about that part.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was really excited for you guys to go down there. So I was very trying to keep up on the socials.
Yeah.
And then I saw what was happening with you, and
heat stroke, first day of the trip.
Right, and I think it was day 2, I think, that you were announcing that you were going home or whatever, and I had, texted you. I'm like, bro, what?
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, let me know when you get home.
Right.
Because that is always the worrisome part, you
Right.
know, family or friend or whatever, where you know somebody's having an issue.
Yeah.
And have to ride home, because I was out on the road. Otherwise, I would have just came got you. I would have just cruised down and just said.
I was having a much bigger issue than I realized I was having.
Right.
And that's one of the bad things about heat stroke and even heat exhaustion is it plays tricks on your mind where you get yourself to think that you're not as in bad a shape as you actually are. So
I think if you add that aspect of not being as bad as you think you are, and plus, you know, throwing in the proverbial guy code, right?
Yep.
Don't ask for help, dude.
Yeah.
Just, I'm got it, man.
Right.
All right. I don't need you to come do anything for me.
Right.
Yeah. 2 bad situations.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yep. So it took me a good week until my body got back to normal pretty much. But even, and that was just a couple weeks ago now. So.
Yeah. Dude, that was crazy. I remember you texted me and you were like, yeah, I think you sent me the picture, or if I saw it online or whatever, but you showed me that, there was a picture of your refrigerator with all the Gatorades and everything in it. And I was like, yeah, I get that.
Yep.
So, but now a couple weeks out, feeling better and
oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm
no residual stuff lingering.
no. I notice that I'm a lot more sensitive to heat still, and the doctor says I probably always will be from now on to some
Really?
point. Yep.
Okay.
And I will also now forever be more susceptible to heat stroke in the future.
Good to know.
Like forever. So I need to be careful with that.
Okay. So what would be your advice to maybe somebody out there right in the desert that's starting to feel the symptoms. Like turn around and just
Stop and find shade, drink water, and rest.
Yeah.
Often.
Like it's okay to.
Yeah, don't push your limits.
Right.
Because with heat exhaustion and heat stroke, you will blow by your limits before you realize that you even did, which is exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I think riding with those guys too, as friends, we need to be able to recognize somebody that's getting into a situation
Yeah.
because we all like to give each other a hard time,
Sure.
and so sometimes that hard time can turn into like, well, maybe I'm not bad. Maybe I do need to just keep riding. Okay.
Right.
So we just need to all make sure we recognize that kind of stuff. And then,
Yep.
I don't know. I'm always afraid of heat stroke, heat exhaustion.
Yep.
Like I'm very aware of it. Like always in my mind. I've never had it, but it's always something I've been around people, and now especially you having it too, doing this thing that we love to do.
Yep.
And it's like I always make sure I have electrolyte drinks with me and go overboard on drinking those. I don't know.
I had liquid IVs with me, and I had a liquid IV in my hydration pack mixed with water.
See, that's really good to know too.
I still got it.
Yeah, because I always have a handful of those.
Mm-hmm.
Throw them in my tank bag.
Yep.
It's just one of those things that just hits you.
Yep.
It doesn't
really
matter.
Once it starts, the only thing that stops it is a lot more water and getting the hell out of the sun.
Yeah.
So
I have a tarp, and I was thinking while you were saying that, I was like, man, would have I recognized your situation, and would I gotten my tarp out and put it up and created shade, just tied off the bikes or something,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many different things. The woulda, shoulda, couldas, right?
Right.
It's easy to say now that we're sitting here in this little area, just chit-chatting face to face rather than out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Because you truly were in the wilderness there.
Oh, yeah. That's the most remote that we have ever ridden.
Yeah.
It is Section 1 is remote. So
sounds appealing.
There's nothing out there.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. That's pretty wild for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So looking ahead and seeing the rest of the BDR, what are your plans for that?
I'll do Section 5 and 6 probably.
Yeah.
I'd probably ride Bennett Pass again, but I wouldn't do all of Section 7. Just that's the rocky sections. Even they say the expert out and backs are really rocky, and you should have your wits about you, and that's true. But there's rocky advanced sections even when that's just part of the actual route. The whole route is like that. So I just don't have any want to do that anymore.
Right.
Yeah. I'll do 5 and 6 because I'm familiar with those already.
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar with 7. I know where it goes. I know what it is. I know how to get around the stuff that I wouldn't want to ride.
Is that the Bennett Pass one?
That's the one that goes up around Bennett Pass and all that stuff. Yeah. So, but I have no want to I mean, never say never, right? But at this point, I have no want to ever do the entire Oregon BDR.
Fair enough.
I just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things too where, we had the original, kind of the OG BDRs, right?
Yep.
So there's 6 of them?
Yes. Yeah.
And you guys...
There's 5. There used to be 6. They're still labeled as if there's 6, but Route 1 doesn't exist anymore.
Really?
Yeah. Logging gates, stuff like that. Shut it down.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
So, but you guys recently, I watched, I think, was it this year or last year? No, it was this year. You guys went up there and Ben did 2 parts on it.
Oh, 6. Yeah. Yep.
Doing 6. I've been looking at doing that and stuff. And
it's a fun route. It's very beginner friendly.
Yeah.
Except for the last 10 miles over by Crescent Lake. But
yeah, I was thinking about...
We did it a couple years ago, too, the whole
around. Right. I remember you guys were talking about... And I think... Didn't you do a video on that? Or
the one a couple years ago,
yeah. I think I watched that one, and then I watched the one with Ben. But I have something coming up in August that I'm going to announce. This is a little fundraiser thing. Late August. It's hooking up with the Raptor Pack, and we're going to do one of his rides down in Grants Pass.
Nice.
I guess we're talking about it. So it's 2023, and August 26th, he is doing... It's not an adventure ride. It's hooking up with the Harley crowd.
Nice.
But that's usually a crowd I'm kind of weary about sometimes but this is actually going to be a fundraiser for kids.
Cool.
And so I ended up, hey, what's this about? And it's actually homeless and troubled kids, and the fundraiser goes directly to feeding and clothing them.
Nice.
I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, very
I'm
cool.
in. So we're going to announce we're going to try to do a fundraiser and bring down some extra money.
Nice.
And be a part of that. So with that being said, going down to Grants Pass, I'm thinking like, well, I just don't want to ride down there and ride back, right? So how can I make it exciting to get down there and come back? So I'm actually thinking about leaving. The event's on Saturday, so I think about doing like, maybe bombing down the Cascades to Crescent Lake, and then doing Route 6.
Oh,
backwards.
like the Cascade Lakes Highway? That one's fun.
Yeah,
That one's cool.
yeah. Just cruising down there, and then, there's a lot of cool riding through there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so just getting down and getting in that area, and then maybe riding, I don't know about the whole Section 6 all the way over to the coast.
Fun. You could, if you were really whooping it, you could do the whole thing in a day, in one long day.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that was probably a pretty genuine idea.
Yeah, I easily can do it in 2 days, one night.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at. So riding down, staying at Crescent Lake, riding the route, being done with it on early Friday-ish, and then finishing the route and then going down to Grants Pass from there.
Yeah.
So
on the coast. Yeah.
Yeah, ride down the coast and then cut over back into Grants Pass. But
or, I mean, you could ride Route 6 until you get to Sutherland and then just hit the freeway.
Right. I thought about that too.
Yeah. Because everything after Sutherland towards the coast is just pavement and then gravel roads. That's all it is. There's nothing technical at all.
Right. I think for me, it would be more just that section of the Oregon coast. I love it down there.
Yeah.
That's just, it's cool. So I'd probably just.
Around Hauser and.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, south of Hauser, Coos Bay and everything, heading down towards like Brookings and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was even tickling like, well, do I leave a day early and then hit those big trees and ride through the redwoods and then come back up? So I'm like,
that'd be cool.
I don't even know. So that's kind of my plan. And then I brought it up to everybody, and everybody that I ride with is like, well, I'm busy. I can't do it. I can't do that. So I'm like, yeah, solo trip. Here we come.
Yeah. I mean, I would, but I'm keeping that whole section of time open because I'm doing Montana.
Yeah.
I'm doing Dorks Camp out here in just a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The very next weekend after that, I'm in Montana for Amanda's thing. And then Chris's thing, Critter's thing in September. So I'm taking some home time.
Yeah. So I was going to do originally, we were going to do the BDR August 4th through the 11th. That's what we set time for.
Mm-hmm. Be a hot time of year.
Yeah. But with what I kind of was talking about earlier, this other project next year, and then the heat, and then knowing what you went through, and then a couple other like conflicts with work, I was kind of like, I don't know if I can make this happen right now.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a little too much time, especially with now the Grants Pass and then Critters event going up there. So I was like, if I have to bag one of those, the BDR. Unfortunately, it would have to be the BDR. So that is kind of the same thing. So I've opened that up. So I'll probably just day trips or something, right?
Yeah.
But who knows with this fire up here?
Right.
Kind of screwing everything up again.
Yeah.
Yep.
If it gets farther east, then it will mess with the route.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's a long ways to go still, though.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, to go that far. But I don't even know what the update is right now. So I know Estacada is a pretty good chunk of Estacada on the south side is under level 1.
Yeah, my mom is.
Yeah.
She lives out past McIver Park.
Oh, yeah.
She past Hayden Road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
on Springwater.
Right.
So
right, which is the normal route to get out there from here.
Right.
Yep. So Critters event should be kind of fun this year.
Yeah.
So what I think loosely there's like a whole herd of us riding up there together.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that should
sounds like it.
We just have to make sure, if you're riding that Coho ferry, the Black Ball, we just have to make reservations. That's the only absolute that we have to do.
Out of Port Angeles?
Yeah.
Oh, you have to make reservations for it?
Yeah, that's the only ferry going over there that you have to have a reservation.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what when I went up there in April, That's what Chris was telling me. He's like, make sure you do it, and it's pretty cheap. I mean, it's I think U.S. it's somewhere around like $30 or something one way.
Hmm.
So it just depends on
For a motorcycle,
yeah.
it's considerably more than that for a car.
Or
I lived in the San Juan Islands for about 2 or 3 years, early 90s.
Yeah.
And so I'm very familiar with the whole having to take the ferry.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the only thing that we have to figure out. We have to figure out who's all riding, who's all meeting us where,
Right.
and what ferry we want to take.
Right.
It's a day ride from here. A solid day ride
Right.
to get up there.
Yeah.
So it should be a lot of fun. So if you're going up there to Critter's event, make sure you come say hi to us.
Yeah.
Man, that thing sold out in like
It did. Fast.
very quick.
Yeah.
I was like,
Well, he already has a waiting list for next year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He still has a waiting list for this year, and I believe also for next year. People are like, yeah, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I might be speaking out of turn here, but I think if you go to this year, you have first priority next year.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I hadn't heard that.
I might be wrong. But then that was the same thing with Dorks. Dork announced his thing, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go to
He
that.
kept registrations very small
Yeah.
for that one, just because it's the first year,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a little bit last minute, so he didn't get the camping area that he originally wanted to where we could have more people.
Right.
So it's very small number of registrations for this year. Next year, if he does it again,
A little
he
bigger.
probably will. It should be a little bit bigger.
I think that would be cool. I thought about just swinging in on Saturday, just riding down and just
Saying
hey,
hi. Yeah.
how's everybody doing? Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that'll happen, but most likely probably will because I
Yeah,
like to just
why not?
ride. Yeah,
Yeah.
why not? All my friends are going to be there.
Yep.
Swinging, say hello. So we didn't really talk about it. You kind of brushed over. I mean, you were in the Navy for a while, weren't you?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yep, a little bit.
Yeah. Is that why you were up there in Washington, living up there? Were you
Oh.
stationed there?
No, I wasn't
No.
stationed there. Uh-uh.
Okay.
Nope. No, I was living up in Washington. That's when I got out of the Navy. Actually, I just moved up. My dad, my actual dad, he's retired deputy sheriff for San Juan County.
Oh, really?
He still lives on Lopez Island now. But I moved when I got out of the service. I needed to decompress for a while, so I went to the islands,
Okay.
and that's just made a life there for a couple years.
That's
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
It is, yeah. It gets boring. So, but I mean, that's why we're allowed to buy alcohol.
Make everything a little more exciting,
Mhm.
right? That's kind of funny. Yeah, I have some cousins that, uncle and cousins, aunt, everybody. They live up in Mount Vernon,
Mhm.
and then my uncle has a boat in
Nice.
Anacortes. So
Nice.
there's a lot of just tootling around the sound on the boat and stuff
Nice.
growing up. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I get
Cool area.
It is. It's gorgeous up there, but I
Mhm.
also get the. That's why you get to buy alcohol,
Right.
right? There's
Yep.
not a lot going on. For
No, there is not.
Sure. How long were you in the Navy for?
I was in for a little while. Yeah. I mean, there were circumstances there to where I got it, not dishonorable or anything, but I had the option to get out and I took it.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
to this day, I do not claim veterans benefits. I am not legally a veteran.
Okay.
So, but it also wasn't dishonorable. So,
We all have the stories.
yep,
Yep.
yep,
It's all good, man.
yep.
So, well, what else do you want to talk about, man? We've been rolling for 2 hours and 9 minutes.
2 hours and 9 minutes.
Yeah.
What else do we talk about?
Well, there's motorcycles.
Motorcycles. What do you want to know about motorcycles?
Okay, here you go. What's your dream bike? I mean,
My dream bike.
you've got the twin,
Yeah.
right? And it sounded like that was a bit of your dream bike.
Yep.
So if you had, funds were whatever, you were going to be given your bike,
Mm.
what would you go get right now? Another big bike? Same thing?
Mm.
A little bike?
I mean, I have a CRF 450X also. That's my trail bike. That's my dirt bike.
That's awesome.
I don't need another bike.
You really
I
don't.
don't. I don't need another one. Because I mean, my twin is my forever bike. I'm not getting rid of it. Even when I get too old and frail to be able to ride it, it's going to be a garage queen.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
why I put all the money in the suspension into it and stuff like that. It's because I'm not selling it ever.
Right. Right. I love my twin.
So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe What do you call those 3-wheelers that the older guys get?
Oh, the Can-Ams?
Yeah, right.
Oh, my
Yeah.
gosh. Please no.
Put some knobbies on it. Go tear it up.
Okay. That would be epic content right there.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
I remember I was at Seaside. So Seaside's over on the coast. We were walking through there. This was a while ago, and there was a Can-Am in a parking spot. And we were right at the arcade. So if you're familiar with,
Yep.
right.
On the boardwalk there in the main strip.
Yeah, on the main strip.
Right.
So I was actually across the street by like the movie theater by the arcade, and I think we were waiting for one of the kids or something. I don't know, but there was one of those parked, and this lady comes out, and she's just walking out. She's got like a peanut helmet, She throws it on, and I'm kind of looking around. I'm like, sometimes you see somebody coming with a helmet, you start stereotyping. Right. And I'm totally guilty of this in this situation. Like I am like looking at her and I look right over the Can-Am in front of me and I'm looking for a Harley.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like Harley. I don't see anything. I don't see a Harley. I don't see where the hell is a Harley? What? And she throws it on, throws her leg over there and it's like I don't know if it's her son or something. I think it was calling her like auntie or something. So maybe, some family member, but they got on that thing and I was like,
on the Can-Am?
Yeah, they got on the Can-Am, and I was like, okay. Like, totally took me out of just by surprise that they got on that, right? Like, I literally was looking for the Harley. It was like the leather vests, the chaps, I mean, like the stereotypical Harley, right?
Yeah.
And so she gets on this thing, and the kid gets on the back, and she starts in the quiet.
They are quiet.
It was so quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of looking at it, and it was like that awkward thing where I was kind of wanted to ask questions, but you can kind of tell they were ready to leave.
You were being the hover guy.
I was so hover. I was so hover guy right there. And then she like clicks it in reverse. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
There's a reverse?
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Okay. I just thought that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know how to take those. When they pass and they're waving, I'm like, okay, hi. I'll wave too, maybe.
Oh.
Okay.
2 is for motorcycles. Can-Am or something 3-wheel is 3 fingers.
Is it the 3-finger wheelie?
Yeah, if it's a scooter, it's a middle finger.
Now, is it 2 fingers or 3 fingers or 3 fingers?
Maybe. Yeah,
maybe.
Depends.
Yeah, depends.
Yeah, it
Okay.
depends on what the jeans look like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. So again, bringing up a little thing with my pops here. Back in the day, he had, I think it was a flathead, Harley flathead.
Mm-hmm.
And he rode that thing forever. And, he went and found a Harley trike. And somebody was selling that trike.
Mm-hmm.
He went and bought it. So he's telling me the story, and I'm like, you bought a trike? Wait, what? And he's like, hold on. He bought it for the transmission.
Oh, okay.
So the transmission, it was literally like a plug and play almost. Just unbolted. The bolt pattern was the same. I guess it was like a super easy job. So he took the transmission out of the trike and put it on his flathead just so he can have reverse.
Nice.
I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
It's hard to sell that other thing without reverse, but
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty funny little story right there, that guy. So now the same thing I ask everybody that kind of goes through your, kind of going with your ultimate bike, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your ultimate trip? What is your dream trip to do on a motorcycle?
South America.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yep. Tip to tip, so to speak.
Tip, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Actually, Alaska all the way down too. Yeah.
So dude, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You ready to go?
Yeah, that's you need some serious time off, and see, there's a lot of planning to do with that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely a lot of planning going down there. So one of my dream trips is Ecuador down to Ushuaia,
Mm-hmm.
and that is just fun fact. I'm not going to say anything, but or who, but we have somebody that just rode that, and they're coming on the podcast to talk about that trip down from Ecuador to Ushuaia.
Nice.
That's going to be fantastic. Ding. I think that's my ultimate trip.
Yeah.
I think you say South America. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ushuaia thing, it's just the destination.
Right.
That's the destination I want to go to.
Right.
I'm not really sure I know the route that I would be like, that's the route I want to take. So when you say all of South America,
Yeah. Yeah, like
Yeah.
go see the Mayan ruins, like
Yeah.
all of it. I want to go see all of it.
yeah,
Yep.
cross the Andes a bunch of times.
Yeah. When
You know.
when I was really little, we had a family friend. His name was Jerry Pells.
Hey, Jerry.
Well, he's passed away now, but
Oh.
he was an ADV rider back before people knew what ADV was.
Yeah.
Right, and he would do it on a sport bike, so he's a sport tourer. But he would work for 6 months out of the year at Beaverton Honda as a mechanic.
Okay.
And he would take a 6-month leave of absence for the other 6 months, and that's what he would do. He would leave Portland and ride all of South America, and then come back. And every single time when he came back, this is back like in the late 70s, early 80s. Every time he came back, he would come over to our house and he'd do a slideshow for us about his entire trip.
Slideshow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Old
like
school.
like no kidding. The big old disc,
Right.
bang up on the white wall.
Hey,
Yeah,
can you guys turn the
slideshow.
lights out?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then in the very early 90s, he was for once in his life he was probably doing the speed limit actually in California, and somebody pulled out in front of him and killed him.
Oh no.
Yeah, but he's my earliest inspiration for wanting to do the whole adventure bike thing.
Yeah.
He was doing it back before anybody, not just before it was cool, but before it even existed. He lived it.
Man, that is really
And that was when I was young, so that was in my impressionable years too.
Right.
So, yeah.
that's really valuable to have somebody like that.
Yeah.
Right. That you just look up to.
Yep.
Because I think adventure riding, there's so many different avenues and aspects of adventure riding you can take, right?
Right.
So there's people that will buy an adventure bike and it's their commuter.
Yep.
Right? Because they're big, comfortable, whatever.
Yep.
There's people that will do maybe moderate gravel,
Sure.
but mainly roads. And then all the way down to your just crazy people that just, not crazy people, but the more hardcore, right?
Yep.
Almost all
Like
off-road.
doing hard enduro. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So you have everything in between. So it's really cool to be able to have a bike that does all of that, but it's also where is your heart and your soul at, right? Because
Yep.
some people just have that wanderlust, right? And I have that.
Mm.
Like I have this constant wanderlust of just wanting to go and have that adventure-filled life, right?
Yep.
I don't know where I'm going, and that's fine.
Right.
I just want to go.
Yep.
And just see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that is 100% me.
Yep.
But there's also people that are like, nope.
Yeah.
I have to know I'm going to go from point A to point B, and this is the exact route I'm taking.
And that's okay for them. If that's what fills their need,
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
And that's the beauty about the ADV community.
Yes.
Because you get all those people together.
Right.
You're still an adventure. You're still the ADV community. It's
Right.
just we're all in a little bit of a different avenue of it.
Yeah.
And it's just it's amazing. And I think when you're just talking about South America, I'm just like, I want to go everywhere.
Yep.
And a lot of people are like, oh my God, you can't go there. It's so dangerous. You can't do this, you can't do that.
Mhm.
Right. Well, is it though? That's one thing I always ask myself. Is it?
Right.
Because in trucking, I've been in some bad places in the United States.
Sure.
Really bad places where I'm like, my door's locked. What's going on right now?
Yeah.
Right. So is that any different than Brazil, Colombia?
Right. Yeah.
I know a lot of people get freaked out about Colombia, and then I get into a taxi cab in Miami, and I'm rolling around with this guy, and he's from Colombia, and he goes, "Oh no, like, don't go super deep in the jungle,
Yeah.
but stay around the coast and the more main roads, perfectly safe. It's safer than Miami."
Yep.
And I was like, I bet you're right.
Mm-hmm. It's the
Because-
same as Mexico. People say that about even Baja California or Mexico, that you don't want to go down there, it's not safe, all that stuff. Well, then how do you explain all the motorcycle tours that go down there every single year without problem?
Sure.
It's because people pay too much attention to the news. The news is going to show you what they want you to see and keep you scared.
Right.
So you keep watching the news.
I think Mexico is.
They're not going to show you what it actually is.
I think it's a little bit on that teeter-totter too, because I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of longevity and realization of like, yeah, there's some bad stuff that's going on down there.
There is. You just stay
especially
away from
right
those.
now.
You just stay away
But-
from those areas.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And
Even
just
when you
go
watch,
do your thing and have fun.
then you watch Itchy Boots,
Yeah.
and here's a little blonde female that went and did it.
And
right?
did it no problem.
She had a little situation,
She did.
but it was. I think the federales made a call to the bad guys and said she's coming through, she's fine, right?
Yeah.
So something in there that she got stopped, the cameras weren't rolling, but they were like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I definitely like in the wintertime this year, I have full on 100% gonna go down to Baja.
Yeah.
Definitely, I'm just gonna go.
Yeah.
Do a little recon, a little research. I'm just not necessarily to go do all the crazy adventure riding, but
Yeah.
just get down somewhere different,
Yeah, I would like to try and do it. It won't be this year. I think next year I'm going to try and do a more of a multi-state tour.
Yeah.
Thing. I think that's what next year's long ride's going to be.
Yeah. What's when you say multi-state, what's kind of your destination ride?
Just do like a loop. Get like a 8 or a 10 state loop, like
Yeah.
Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Colorado, Wyoming, and then like clear over to Michigan, and then loop and come back.
Oh, going way east.
Right, and just try to get a bunch of states in. Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
That's kind of cool. I did a.
I've been those places, but never on a motorcycle. I just want to kind of tour it a little bit.
Dude, that's actually really awesome.
Yeah, take a couple weeks and just go, and just so I can take my time,
Yeah.
so I'm not rushing to try and get someplace. If I need to stop, I'll just stop.
That's the beauty of riding too.
Yeah.
And I think that just goes to a lot of just different motorcycle aspects of different riding. I did in 2018, I did a solo trip, and I just took off. And I had areas I wanted to go to, and at the time, I have my national park passport book.
There you go.
So I just wanted to start checking those off. So I went over, rode through Oregon and down into Nevada. Hit the Great Basin National Park and ended up over in Utah and doing a bunch of riding around Moab. And well, not that trip. I didn't do Moab that trip, but
I would like to do the Redwoods and Yellowstone and Moab and those places. Yeah,
dude, those are all just amazing places to ride. And one of the things I like about the freedom of riding is I was riding down. I was actually headed to Bryce Canyon National Park, and I was just riding down a highway, and just doopy-doopy-doo, and I was actually listening to a Neil Peart book at the time, right? So I'm just cruising through, and I saw this sign that said Capitol Reef National Park, next right, 100 miles. And I went, okay.
Yeah.
And just made the left and just took off.
Yeah.
And just added that to the trip, and I'm so glad I did. But that's kind of the freedom on those trips where you're like, I have a loose agenda, but it's nothing cut in stone.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I went over there and stopped off at the Capitol Reef Cafe. That last time I came through there with my pops, it was closed. Are you kidding me? And it actually had multi-grain pancakes that were full throttle for sure. They were so good. I was so excited. You're getting closer to Torrey, right? So it's Torrey, Utah is where this place was. It might have just been closed at the time, but it looked like it was closed.
Yeah.
And I was just getting closer. My stomach's going, pancakes, pancakes, pancakes. And I was just like, we pull in. I'm like, what just happened here?
You're like, I just envisioned Ron Swanson going to Indianapolis for Mulligan Steak.
Yes.
Having the steak, having it closed.
Exactly. It's the exact same feeling.
Right.
So next best thing was Subway next door. So we pulled to Grace.
I mean, props to Subway. Before Subway, no other chain had been able to convince a human being to eat a whole loaf of bread in one sitting before Subway.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yep.
Yeah. It's good though. Even though they put chemicals in the bread, that's
chemicals. Yep.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yep.
I still glow a little bit in the dark. It's fine.
Right. It's all right.
So, yeah. So what in the States you're going to do your big trip, and then are you going to national park it, or are you just I just want to do these states?
Don't know.
Perfect.
Yep.
I love it.
Don't know. I know the general loop that I want to do, and that's all I have so far. That's all I've got.
That's perfect.
So I've got friends in a couple of states, so all else fails, I can crash with them when I go through. So another one that I want to do is the loop around the Olympic Peninsula.
Yeah.
So
I was there's somebody that was just going to do that and wanted people to go with them.
Wasn't it Matt?
No, it wasn't Matt. I forget his name. He's actually doing a documentary on Oregon.
Oh, you're talking about Dave Schlesky?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure.
Let's
but
just say
ADV
yes.
Oregon.
Yeah.
No.
No, that's
No.
Sean.
Yeah, he's
Pacific Northwest Adventure.
correct.
Or
Yeah,
something
but
like that.
he's also working on the a loop around Oregon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I actually messaged him a while ago. I was like, "Hey, man, I'll go scout stuff for you."
I did the same. He goes, "Yeah, I actually wanted to reach out to you and have you help me."
Yeah.
And then I never heard from him again.
Same. Yeah, it was the same
Like,
thing. It was okay.
Whatever.
So I see him. He's out camping and stuff. Did something with this kid here recently. I was like, all right, that's cool.
Right.
But yeah, I think that I'm actually looking forward to that kind of a documentary just to see what he does with it, because I had no idea what he did for a living.
That's what he does for a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, wasn't he with like Yamaha for like
Yep.
16 years or
Yep.
something astronomical?
Yep.
So he put together that video a while ago. It might have been maybe close to a year now. And he's like, oh, I just put together some things, some extra clips I had. And it was like watching a freaking like movie.
Yeah.
I was like, holy Christ, this
Right.
is amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. So seeing his eye and his vision and what he does, and knowing that he's going to do the Four Corners of Oregon
Right.
and do that ride, I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
He has no idea. We're talking about him.
Yeah. It's all right.
That'd be great. I think it's probably still like what? Probably a year out from that, I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be a year at least.
Yeah.
At least.
So I know. So
Could be a pretty epic ride though. A loop around Oregon.
yeah.
That could be pretty epic.
Mm-hmm. And going back to what we were saying earlier, I mean, a lot of people just think, hey, it's, the Cascades West. So that would really showcase Oregon, all
Yeah.
the different aspects. And
Yeah, the only problem that I foresee with it is the southeast corner of the state, because it is so remote.
Yeah.
You have to worry about gas stops at that point.
right.
So
Well, depending on the kind of support that he has,
right.
right? So who knows if he's going to have a support vehicle or if he's just doing it. Because I'd imagine that's going to take a lot of cameras,
Right. Yeah.
It's not going to be a GoPro.
Well, I mean, yeah, a lot of almost everybody uses an action camera on their helmet,
Right.
even for big production stuff. That's just
Right.
what they use.
But all the
You
other
can
stuff.
get it to look better based off of how you set the settings inside.
Right.
The setting your bit rate properly makes the biggest difference.
Right.
Yeah.
That took me forever to figure out.
You got to have the high bit rate so you can
Yep.
get the good resolution.
Yep.
You can have it set to 4K and 24 frames a second, like cinematographers do. If you don't have that bit rate set to high,
Right.
none of that other stuff is going to matter at all.
Yeah, like I said, that's a whole nother learning curve, learning about the cameras and stuff. And in fact, when you're walking around camp and stuff, you have a different camera that you use.
Yeah, the DSLR.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've been looking at different cameras myself and
Mhm.
just kind of thinking about just the videos. And I have a different vision for what I'm currently doing that I'm going to slowly get into. But
Yeah. I mean, it used to be when I was around camp, I just used my phone
Right.
for all that
He
stuff.
did that at Lolly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't have my cameras with me.
Right.
But if I have my cameras with me, I have the Sony out and I'm using that.
Right. That's a pretty good purchase right there.
I love it. There's zero regrets about getting that.
Right.
And that was, I spent a lot of hours picking Amanda's brain, because that's one of the things she does. She's huge into using actual cameras. Making. She's not a moto vlogger. She's a cinematographer. She makes movies, not videos.
Right. And so
Very good.
she's as the magpie flies.
As the magpie flies,
Right.
yes. And I've spent a lot of hours picking her brain, either meeting her for coffee or whatever, or just texting back and forth, messaging about, okay, I want to up my game. I want to get away from doing the action cam thing, talking head stuff,
Right.
and get, better depth of field and focus. And these are some things that I was thinking of, and just talking to her and just, actually not just hearing her advice, but actually listening to her advice and taking the advice.
Right.
And that's how I ended up with the Sony that I got. And best purchase I've made,
Right.
YouTube or not. I love it.
She has a video, I think. She definitely has a video. I think it's older, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, but it's kind of her behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Where she had her camera up. This is how I do it and stuff.
Right.
I thought that was pretty cool. And Sterling does that too.
Yep.
Does some of that, you
Right.
know. So you watch. I mean, those are clearly different videos from the norm.
Mm-hmm.
People that are more cinematic
Mm-hmm.
and are more passionate about what they're capturing.
Yep.
And that's
Because it comes down to so much more than just what your settings are,
yeah,
or even where you're placing your camera. It to get truly cinematic stuff and make a film instead of just a video.
yeah,
You got to have an eye and a brain knowing how you're going to accomplish that.
right. Brain, eye,
See,
and vision.
I do not. I'm a moto vlogger. I am not a cinematographer.
Right, right.
That's I am very comfortable in saying that. I do not profess to be some filmographer and be very good. I am not at all.
Right.
I'm just trying to use better equipment to make what I do look a little bit better.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Make it more watchable.
right. And I think that's what we're all striving for is to make.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's face it, a lot of us are not on the level of full-time career on YouTube, right?
Right.
So being able to make things a little bit different is how do we set ourselves apart? Right. Because really when you look at motovloggers, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of us out there.
And there is no longer any such thing as original content.
Right.
There isn't.
No, because when you watch some of these YouTube videos like how-tos, and I'm using parentheses, a lot of people say steal. You see somebody that does something on their video and you're like, oh, I really like that. We'll take that idea and move it. It's like, well,
Take that idea and put your personality to it and your take
right,
on it.
right. So then it becomes yours. You own that.
It's better if you try not to do that with current stuff. Look back 6 months to a year and see what people did 6 months to a year ago,
right,
and remake something like that. But
well,
yeah, but yeah, as far as original content on YouTube, it doesn't exist.
It's really funny because I've been setting up something. I've been doing some filming for the last several months for a little thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to drop it probably. I think it's going to be like my wintertime project and stuff that it could be.
I have one of those as well. I've been working on it for about 2 years.
And then I watched a video literally yesterday. I'm like, oh no, what? And I watched it. I'm like, oh shit. All right, he beat me to the punch.
Yep.
Right,
You got scooped. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we don't know each other, but he is. I think he's around here. We talked about him the other day. I'll tell you off. That way, everybody's like, not gonna go run to it and see what he's doing and give away what I'm doing. But
I have
funny.
more than a handful of videos that never made it to my channel. They were done, polished, ready to go, that I did not put up because of that situation.
Oh, really?
So somebody else put something up. It's like, well, I'm not going to do it now.
Right.
I mean, I had scripts written. I had it filmed. It was done, polished, beautiful videos. I mean, it's way better than my early stuff because all that's crap.
Yeah.
And deleted them.
Oh,
because it literally would have been damn near a carbon copy of at least the topic, if not the video itself.
That's when you do what you just said. Just wait a few months and then drop it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, original content. What is that?
Right.
I mean, we're in a niche, right? So we've already taken the scope of viewers and brought them down to our little niche, right?
Yep.
And then within that niche, you've got some huge players.
Right.
Right. And then there are people that I've never heard of, and I'll get into their channel. I'm like, holy crap. They have like 27,000 views or 15,000 views and stuff on these videos. And you're like, never heard.
Right.
Then you watch them and you're like, they're okay, but I get it.
Yep.
Personable, either it's a very personable personality or it's cinematic, So it's like you see these and you're like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah, I think my Washington BDR full-length video that I did where I smashed them all together, I think it's past 50,000 views now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really blew up this year.
I definitely, one of them, I'm actually probably, if they broke it down, I'd probably be like 5 of them or something. That's one of those, there's videos you have that you just, I'm going to go clean. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
I got this.
I do the same.
You want the background noise and
I
stuff.
do the exact same.
And it's one of those videos where you can be like, okay, yep, I know right where I'm at. You just take your head out the door and look, and you're like, yep, okay, we're good. So
none of those are my own.
Yeah.
I don't watch my own stuff after it's on the channel.
I do sometimes.
I do plenty of, I misspoke. When I first upload it, and like it's scheduled, I'll watch it through Studio just to make sure that the audio levels are good and all that stuff, make sure it's good. It's the only time. After that, I never watch it again. But I watch it probably 7 or 8 times while I'm creating it just to make sure I'm not messing up.
Right. Well, I'm kind of the opposite because I'm new enough to where I'm still learning. So I might have like, I want to try this, and I know I did it on this video.
Mm.
So I'm going to go watch that video, and then I'm going to compare it to this video. And so I'm not watching it for some narcissistic reason. I'm
Yeah.
watching it because I'm trying to learn my progression and where I'm at, and then kind of maybe grab a style a little bit, or maybe I did this and I was like, oh God, don't ever do that again, you know? So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. I'd imagine if I get to a different point where it's more content coming out, maybe, I don't know, maybe not do that, but I still think it's okay to go back and watch a little bit of it here and there.
Oh yeah, I didn't say there was anything wrong with doing it.
That's just what you do.
Yeah, it's just I don't watch my own stuff. I just don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that
Yeah.
too. They're just like, "Psh, once it's out, it's out.
Yeah.
Moving on."
Right.
And I did that. Oh my God. So the Giant Loop series that I did, episode 4, I got stuck on that video. I like got so stuck on the editing because I made this intro, and I was like, I'm really happy with this intro. And then it was like the video, like you had this intro that I felt was just massive.
Mm-hmm.
And then the video was just like, "Hi everybody, how you doing? It's just fine." And I was like, it doesn't. I can't edit this stuff together, and
Yeah.
I was having camera issues, so I was just like, I'm trying to figure everything out and try to. It took me like an extra week.
Yeah, it
And
happens.
Finally, I got done with it, and I was like,
Yep.
I have to put this out just so I'm done with it.
I haven't
So I
put
can
any
shelf
TourTech
it.
stuff out yet, even
Yeah.
just because of camera issues. Like a bunch of the rides ended up in time lapse.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done that before.
Yeah, so that's why I don't. Aside from the meat stick route, that's why I don't have any TourTech footage.
Which is a freaking hilarious
Yeah.
video. You hook, line, and sinkered me. 100%. I saw the title of that, and I was like, the toughest route of TourTech. Click.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I'm laughing through the whole thing. Like, I am like, I get it. This
It's
is
a
hilarious.
cool vending machine.
Right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I was just like, this is amazing. I freaking love it.
Yep, I haven't finished any of my Oregon stuff, which that's going to be way shorter than I originally anticipated, right? For obvious reasons, but I haven't figured out how I'm doing that one. Because one of the things that that I run into quite often, and no fault of Ben's at all, and I'm not calling him out at all, but because I ride with him so often,
Yeah.
a lot of my stuff is almost the exact same video that he does.
Right.
And I've actually had comments, like people will message me, said, I watched your video, but I watched Ben's first, so I didn't want to see the same thing. So it's like, that's cool, that's fine, but I have to figure out how to change it enough to make it still interesting, because
Right.
Otherwise people just aren't going to watch it.
Yeah. I
Right.
think
So
I think that was Critter's take too, because I started the series before his video came out. I had 2 out or something before his came out, and we spent that entire 10, 11 days side by side.
mm-hmm.
A lot of the same filming, a lot of the same
It makes
angles.
it difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the spin that he threw on it, I thought was one of the best videos I've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Just the voiceovers and everything. It was like the same thing. Like, I think we were both worried that,
Well, you can
Same
also
thing.
like with voiceovers, it's very easy to over narrate a video.
Yeah.
And it takes. I am of the mind that I want the video to do more of the talking than me,
Okay.
and
yeah.
I will do voiceovers when I think it's necessary, but I'm not just gonna narrate over the entire thing like some people have a habit of doing,
Right.
which is great. It works, but it's a lot of times I'll click off on those videos because it's like I don't want to hear to somebody talk. I want to watch this happen. And I
Yeah.
don't want you telling me a story. Don't tell me the story. Film it in a way that I watch the story.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I've seen several recently that are very over narrated. And then typically when that happens, the big words start getting thrown into the narration.
Right. Yeah.
I click off on those immediately.
The big words.
I cannot, not because of the big words, but it's
Right.
like they're trying. It's like I'm listening to a book on tape instead of watching the video.
I've been trying to do some voiceovers and
Mhm.
stuff, and again,
I
like
do as well. Also,
Yeah.
once in a while. Yeah.
I'm a beginner, so I'm still learning audio levels, and like there's a couple in this last series where I've unhappy with it, and then the last video I was like, oh, there's this whole other window just for freaking talking
Yeah.
and dialogue and stuff, and that was a game changer.
Right.
But it was kind of funny that it took me a while to figure out, okay, this is how it works.
Right.
And now having this set up too, it's a little easier to do a voiceover because I used to have just a crappy mic that plugged into the USB into the computer,
Right.
and it just sounded, hello, brother. It was
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible, but that was the only mic I had, so I listened to some of the voiceover, and I was like, oh, God.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
my
that's-
issue right now. I love my microphone, but it's having that popping and cracking issue, so I got to
Right.
replace it.
Yeah.
'Cause anytime I try to do a voiceover for any reason, even if it's 5 seconds, the pops and the cracks, it's like it's peaking.
Yeah.
But it's like a static peak.
So
So
I was having one of those problems because the mod on my Hero 11 was actually taking a dump on me.
yeah.
And now I realize, because I've been having some popping and cracking, I thought it was just the microphone, like maybe air getting in the helmet, right?
Mm.
So I thought maybe that's what it was. And then when I got the giant loop, I spent the entire first day vlogging and talking with people, and it was complete silence.
Yeah.
There was nothing recorded.
Sucks.
And just no audio at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, what's going on? So I looked inside the mod, and where that little 1/4-inch plug goes, the little piece that actually clicks into the metal part on the inside,
Mm.
it was completely loose.
Oh.
So I was like, and then I was thinking, this has been going on for a little bit. So that had to be just going out, and I just didn't know what it was. I assumed
Right.
it was something. But going to your popping, I tried to edit all that stuff, try to do voice and compression, and
Oh yeah.
Do-
No,
yeah.
I leave my my audio as unedited as possible.
well, I was trying to make it sound a little bit better because I was trying to do some vlogging on like some other videos, and it was just pop, 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 pop.
Yeah.
So how do I get that pop out of there? So that's why I was doing some of the compression and trying to learn and trying to get in and screw with the compression to make it a little tighter, and
Right.
it still didn't work. It's a little bit better. But
Yeah. And then if you overdo it, it either sounds tinny or
Right.
it sounds thin or it sounds like you're far away. or-
Right.
It's just yeah.
Yeah,
it's
no
just-
bueno on that stuff.
Right.
Absolutely no bueno. So, well, frick, man. I think we're probably a pretty good place to turn this thing off now.
All right.
We got 2 hours and 43 minutes into it.
There you go.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate you coming in and taking some time.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think maybe moving down the future, you'll need to come back because you're going to do more rad
More rad stuff.
We got to keep up on you,
Right.
keep up on you. I
Yep.
was thinking maybe one of these days we'll have a bit of a roundtable discussion. Bring in like
There you go.
4 or 5 of us and just throw out some topics.
Nice.
Should be kind of fun.
Yeah, we do that.
Mm-hmm. All right, brother. Anything to say? Anything to plug? Where's your socials?
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It's all just at Explore Adventure Moto. Just look that up on any search engine, and you will be able to find my socials.
Right on. What do you say at the end of your videos?
Stay hairy.
Stay hairy. And we're going to end it just like that. Later, everybody.